Headline News. News 24/7.
Still more violence in the Middle East, leaving one Palestinian and one Israeli dead. Hello from CNN Headline News in Atlanta. I'm Denise Dillon. We'll have more on that story in just a moment. First, President Bush returned to Ground Zero on Veterans Day, honoring both veterans and victims of the September 11th attacks. And Vice President Dick Cheney marked the holiday near Washington. He laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery, praising what he called the unbroken line of brave Americans who came to the defense of freedom.
The military drew out the best that was in them, instilling the highest standards of diligence, discipline, and loyalty. That is a bond joining every veteran from every branch of the service. Whether drafted or enlisted, commissioned or non-commissioned, each took an oath, lived by a code, and stood ready to fight and die for their country.
2 post offices remain closed in Colorado while samples taken from the sites are tested for anthrax. The governor closed them after a man who works in the city's main post office came down with pneumonia. Test results released late Saturday have shown he is not suffering from inhalation anthrax. Tests are being performed on 2 of the man's co-workers, though. 200 postal workers went to a clinic Saturday to get antibiotics just as a precaution. Heavy fighting was reported Sunday night between the Taliban and the opposition Northern Alliance in Afghanistan. There were light Allied airstrikes in the same area. The alliance says it has captured several strategic sites and is trying to press forward. Ben Wiedemann reports from northern Afghanistan.
The guns didn't go silent Sunday outside Dashti Kala, where the Northern Alliance is trying to outflank Taliban forces and drive them out of the north. Gunners exchanged fire throughout the day. A Northern Alliance spotter directs the bombardment of Taliban positions in the valley below, but their enemy was able to fire back. Following the fall of Mazar-i-Sharif, it's clear the Northern Alliance is trying to press its advantage. In some areas, it has made progress, but here it's running into stiff resistance. The day before, U.S. warplanes steadily bombed the Taliban in this area, but alliance troops complain it did little to weaken Taliban resolve. This alliance commander says the Taliban soldiers nearby aren't giving any ground. Mostly Arabs, Pakistanis, and Chechens. Over the radio, they've warned they will die before they surrender. Hours later, the alliance claims they took those positions and the Taliban fled. These battle-hardened alliance troops don't appear fazed by Taliban bravado. After more than 20 years of fighting, war in Afghanistan has almost become a routine affair. The alliance is sending its antiquated Soviet tanks to the front, one of the few signs of relative modernity one sees here. Heavily laden with weapons, these troops are set to take part in an offensive alliance officials claim has already resulted in the capture of 2 key towns in northern and central Afghanistan. These claims, however, cannot be independently verified. What is clear is that the alliance, after years of setbacks in its war against the Taliban, is gaining ground and momentum. Before going into battle, alliance tank crews pray for victory. For these soldiers, there's a feeling their prayers are finally being answered. Ben Wiedemann, CNN, outside Dashti Kala, northern Afghanistan.
2 more deaths in the Mideast Sunday. A Palestinian man is dead after a bomb he was making exploded. And an Israeli security officer was shot and killed in a farming cooperative northeast of Tel Aviv. Police sources tell CNN they're searching for a Palestinian suspect in that killing. The gunman reportedly opened fire when the security guard approached, killing him and wounding a passerby. Now, the violence came as Secretary of State Colin Powell and Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres met in New York. They discussed a new peace initiative reportedly calling for a Palestinian state in areas already under Palestinian control. Iran has sent liaison representatives to consult on the formation of a new government when and if the Taliban are removed from power. In a rare interview with CNN's Christiane Amanpour, Iranian President Mohammad Khatami said he wants an interim government made up of all Afghan groups.
All the people of Afghanistan, Afghan men and women, regardless of their religious or ethnic background, may be able to go to the polls and determine what the future of their country should be. However, it is clear that under the present crisis, this is not possible to attain at this very moment, and therefore we need a transitional period.
In the interview, Khatami also expressed sympathy for the losses the U.S. suffered on September 11th. But in a speech to the UN over the weekend, he criticized the U.S. military action in Afghanistan. He said the U.S. was resorting to violence and revenge. French rescue teams are on their way to Algeria. Floods have killed more than 340 people there. Heavy rains and winds battered the North African country over the weekend, and forecasters don't expect the bad weather to let up before Tuesday. So far, more than 5,000 families have been left homeless. Emergency cabinet meetings were called to implement a crisis plan to provide shelter and food for victims. Algerian newspapers blame the government for not being prepared, despite severe weather warnings from meteorologists. In Pittsburgh, a black man has been sentenced to death for killing 3 white men in a racially motivated shooting rampage. Jurors took about 5 hours over 2 days to agree on the death sentence for 41-year-old Ronald Taylor. He was convicted last week after a killing spree last March at 2 Pittsburgh area restaurants. Prosecutors say Taylor targeted whites. Defense attorneys argue he is mentally ill and could not control his actions. A check of local news is next for many of you, and for the rest, the story behind Veterans Day. Your source for news 24/7. This is CNN Headline News.
When you travel, don't downsize, Amerisize at AmeriSuites. Need more room to spread out? Get more workspace and features like high-speed internet access. Plus, unwind in a suite for the price of an ordinary hotel room. And when it comes to breakfast, don't downsize, Amerisize. Get AmeriSuites' free bountiful breakfast buffet every morning. Don't downsize, Amerisize at AmeriSuites. Over the holidays, visit family and friends. Ask for our $59 share the season rate.
As the war against terrorism continues, log on to CNN.com to find out what's happening now. Get up-to-the-minute, on-the-scene reports from CNN correspondents in the field. Go behind the headlines and get the full story with detailed maps, photo galleries, and interactive 3D models. Plus, be the first to know when news breaks with CNN email alerts. Get everything you need to know when you want it at CNN.com.
With billows of smoke still rising, President Bush and UN Secretary Kofi Annan visited Ground Zero Sunday. The two leaders listened as a list of the 80 nations that lost citizens was read. This comes as Americans across the nation pay tribute to our fallen heroes. CNN's Bruce Morton filed this report on the history and meaning of Veterans Day.
Veterans Day, Monday's sales and all that, began life as Armistice Day with a 2-minute silence at 11 a.m. to mark the moment, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, when the Great War, as World War I was then called, ended. The war to end wars, people called it then. Wrong, of course. It was very bloody. At least 9 million soldiers, draftees, most of them died. It was very stupid. Most of them died to push a line of trenches 50 yards this way or that. And few probably knew what the war was about. Nowadays, it's hard to think it was about anything. It just happened, like an earthquake. And of course, mankind went on and did much worse. World War II, the history books say, killed at least 50 million soldiers and civilians, though a study called Facts About the American Wars says it may have been twice as many. Civilians died in huge numbers: Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto, Jews and Gypsies in the concentration camps, ordinary civilians in cities like London and Coventry and Dresden and Berlin, and finally in the poison glow which destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Cold War, maybe 21 million, and then millions more in Stalin's purges, 10 million maybe in the famine that came with the collectivization of agriculture in the Ukraine. So the 20th was a very bloody century. And now here we are in the first war of the 21st, a war which started just 2 months ago. Former President Bill Clinton, speaking at Georgetown, his old university this past week, called this war a struggle for the soul of the new century. Between those, like Americans, he said, who believe we don't know everything, but are groping, stumbling toward a better world for people, and those, like the fanatic Muslims who join the terrorist groups, who think the truth has been revealed to them, that those who are not like them ought to die. You can explain the extremists, or try to. A government with a lot of poverty, poor education, a stagnant economy, may find it easier to point at some outside group, the Israelis, the Americans, and say it's their fault. May find it easier to do that than to improve things at home. Fighting all that will involve combat, but also, Clinton said, an effort to make life better in poor places. A long struggle, surely, but hopefully with less blood shed in this century than in the last. I'm Bruce Morton.
The house in England where former President Clinton lived during his time at Oxford University is now up for sale. Asking price, a cool $1 million. Clinton rented a room on the ground floor when he was a Rhodes Scholar from 1968 to 1970. The building has since been converted into a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. Now, Clinton is not the only famous person who lived there. His roommate back then was former Deputy Secretary of State Strobe Talbot. One of Britain's most notorious drug dealers also lived there, but of course, not at the same time. The Northern Alliance reports seizing key sites in central and northern Afghanistan. We'll have the details on that. And on this Veterans Day, President Bush honors America's war heroes at Ground Zero. These and other stories coming up when we come back. This is CNN Headline News.
Belarus. It was an incredible scene.
We will not waver. We will not tire. We will not falter. And we will not fail.
This is a battle with only one outcome. Our victory, not theirs.
This is the time when trust matters most, and the world is watching CNN, the only cable news network with the experience to report events as they happen. With anchors Paula Zahn and Aaron Brown in New York, John King, Judy Woodruff, and Wolf Blitzer in Washington. Analysis from Jeff Greenfield and Greta Van Susteren. News-making interviews from Larry King, Lou Dobbs with Market News, and Christiane Amanpour, live from the front lines. In this time of change, America and the world turn to the most trusted name in news. You can depend on CNN.
CNN Headline News. Real fast.
Hi, I'm Gary Collins. Did you know that over 1 million Americans are waking up to a revolutionary new way to sleep on air?
I slept more soundly right from the start.
I'm not tossing, I'm not turning.
She has her comfort level, I have mine, and we can change it at will.
They're talking about the Select Comfort Air Bed. And now you can get the whole story in this catalog and video absolutely free. Inside, you'll discover a mattress so comfortable and supportive, we guarantee you a better night's sleep. Plus, you can adjust firmness on both sides of the bed at the touch of a button. Unlike metal coils that can create pressure points and water beds that can bend your spine, Select Comfort contours to your body. So, find out why over 1 million Americans, including me, are waking up to Select Comfort. Call for your free catalog and video today.
To get all the exciting details on this new and better way to sleep on air, including your free Select Comfort Airbed catalog and free sleep video, call toll-free 1-800-289-0797.
A controversy is brewing over Red Cross blood donations. President Bush makes his second trip to New York's Ground Zero. And the White House asks for Hollywood's help to win the war on terrorism. Hello, everyone, and welcome to CNN Headline News. I'm Denise Dillon. Thanks for joining us. Topping the news, a controversy over Red Cross blood donations has some people seeing red. A report published in Sunday's Washington Post accuses the organization of taking blood donations, knowing much of it would not be used. After the September 11th attacks, people lined up to donate blood in record numbers, but now thousands of pints could be destroyed. But a top Red Cross...
It's searching on your hands and knees. It's moving a foot at a time. It's baby steps.
You're about to go to Ground Zero.
That's our skyline now. Instead of the buildings being there, they're here. It's nuts.
MSNBC investigates out of the rubble. If you ever had a chance to visit the World Trade Center, you know it was an awesome feat of engineering, where 40,000 workers hustled and bustled on just 16 acres. Now, just outside Ground Zero, a new community is hard at work, where thousands face the devastating loss every day. The place where nearly 5,000 were killed on September 11th. As they clear this site and search for clues about what went wrong, they're also looking for ways to make buildings of the future even safer. December 23rd, 1970. One of the proudest moments in New York City history. The topping out ceremony for the North Tower of the World Trade Center. September 11, 2001. The North Tower is the first hit in the terrorist attack on New York. More than 8 million square feet of office space will plunge to the ground in an avalanche of steel, glass, and concrete. The falling wreckage pushes through the 7 stories beneath street level into the New York City subway system. What took 7 years to build takes less than 2 hours to come crashing down. The Twin Towers, once the world's tallest buildings, become the world's biggest pile of debris.
It's a lot of trucks, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. See the crane with the basket? That big piece of metal in there is a staircase. That's where they're finding a lot of people and a lot of firemen. They were all coming down the stairs when it collapsed.
Each day, hundreds of workers and volunteers remove about 10,000 tons from the million-ton pile of wreckage, with more to come. Leslie Robertson was the structural engineer when the Twin Towers were built.
Everything will have to be leveled. There will be nothing left except some of the below-grade construction will be left. But all of that which people think of when they say World Trade Center, all of those buildings, all 7 of them will be gone completely.
Removing all the wreckage from the 7 buildings that made up the World Trade Center is expected to take at least a year.
Finishing up.
Ken Holden is the city's commissioner for design and construction.
We're pretty much on a year schedule, a year from September. Our goal is basically to get down to street level by the end of the year, or by January. And then from January through September, we'll focus on the basement areas.
Richard Tomasetti's structural engineering firm was commissioned by the city to assess the damage and to assist in removing the debris.
We wound up putting cranes where cranes were never meant to go. The plaza's designed just for people walking on it, and we put a 600-ton crane there by developing a big steel grillage spanning between columns. There's a bridge in one area that's a combination of new structure and old structure to get cranes in certain areas. Some of them have been actually built using the wreckage steel from the World Trade Center.
My father was in this business, and when I was a kid, he took me down here on a smaller crane. And I remember looking up at the towers being built at the time. I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, and I knew then that this is what I wanted to do. And it's so hard to sit here looking at this mess. It really is a tragedy.
But this massive excavation project is not just taking place above ground. Guy Tazzoli was the director of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey when it built the World Trade Center.
The towers are actually 117 floors high, so 7 stories below the ground. You had the shopping centers, you had all the below-grade space, because a city within a city needs below-grade space for all the services that you have for such a city.
And much of those 7 stories below the towers, including the subway system, have collapsed and are filled with tons of debris. New York transit officials have determined that more than a mile of subway lines, including some stations, will have to be rebuilt.
This section of tunnel right under us here is fine, but as you head north, it's collapsed for most of the way through the plaza area there. Just north of that, you've got the 7 World Trade, which collapsed on our tunnel, so we've got another collapsed section up there.
Also below the surface is a 3-foot-thick steel-reinforced concrete wall that descends about 75 feet to bedrock. Called the bathtub, the wall surrounds the 16-acre site. It was originally built to combat the pressures of the Hudson River and the Atlantic Ocean pushing inland. Though the bathtub wasn't breached in the collapse, it is now being supported by rubble.
You know, it's almost like a garbage compactor. It's all pressed down in there, so it's keeping that wall in place. But someone will have to figure a way to buttress that wall up so it doesn't cave in as they take the debris out of the bottom.
But before the wall can be supported, there are still hundreds of tons of twisted metal and concrete that have to be removed, sometimes by hand.
The main thing is to clean everything out. Clean everything out fast, but also gently, so you don't know what you're going to find inside.
I stay pretty busy here. I'm tired. I'm extremely tired. Seven days a week, 12 hours a day. It takes a lot out of a person. I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get here.
Among the workers and volunteers who routinely put in 12-hour shifts, exhaustion is only one of the problems they face. Hundreds of firemen have been tested for respiratory problems, and nearly 1,000 injuries and illnesses were reported during the first week and a half of the operation alone.
Men and women who are working out there are walking on very uncertain ground. And if you're standing next to a steel beam that goes over on its side, and you're going to have broken legs. You know, it's a very unsafe place to work.
But the men and women who toil at Ground Zero every day know this is more than just another job site. To many, it's become holy ground.
I become very emotional when I talk about it, knowing that all these people are in here. Then I had three friends that I knew personally that are in there, so it's kind of rough for me.
Still ahead.
When the World Trade Center was designed, which was really in the late 1960s, it could truly be said that it was state-of-the-art or beyond state-of-the-art. It was a true engineering marvel of its time.
Hi, I'm Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon.com. When news breaks, the people of MSNBC bring you the whole picture, live, 24 hours a day. To learn more, books give us the lessons of history, analysis, and opinion. That's why we've put together a selection of books, including those you see here, to help bring you clarity and perspective. So log on now to our special website, Amazon.com/NBC, because no matter where you live, books expand our world.
Promise you'll call me?
I will. I
promise. Is a promise. Wherever you are and whatever you do, Allianz with its global partners is the power on your side.
Hi, I'm Mike Reagan. As my dad liked to say, it's morning again in America. President George Bush is making America great again. He's cutting taxes, strengthening our military, and giving Americans a sense of optimism. Show your support for him with this new t-shirt. Wear it at home, wear it at the gym, wear it everywhere I do. Let all Americans know you support him and you're tired of the big media. Newsmax.com, my favorite website, is offering this t-shirt to you. As a special bonus, get a free 4-month subscription to Newsmax's magazine. That's a value of almost $20. Newsmax magazine is mailed to your home each month and filled with the stories the big media just won't report on. Edited by award-winning journalist Christopher Ruddy, it breaks the big stories the media won't touch. It also includes my column, read Bill O'Reilly, David Limbaugh, and others. Don't miss this opportunity.
Since September 11th, engineers from around the country have been examining the rubble at Ground Zero, trying to determine what caused the Twin Towers to come crashing down. Was it the impact of the jets, the resulting fire, or something else? But to understand why they collapsed, it's necessary to understand how they were built. In the early 60s, Lower Manhattan was in the midst of a deep financial depression. Aside from Wall Street, there was little commercial success on the southern tip of the island. The time was ripe for a renaissance.
There was not a single new building had been built in Lower Manhattan except for the Chase Manhattan building since World War II. The area was dying. It was a dead village after 3 o'clock when the stock exchange closed.
The planning and designing of the World Trade Center would take 6 years, with construction for the 7 buildings beginning in 1966.
In fact, the Reader's Digest called this project, when we announced it in 1964, the largest building project since the pyramids.
The World Trade Center was built to stand out. The memo given by the chief of staff of the Port Authority to the architect was build a building that will be noticed. And it was noticed. And it was designed to be noticed. It was there to be noticed.
But before any construction could begin above ground, the site had to be excavated to bedrock, more than 7 stories beneath the surface. A 3-foot concrete retaining wall had to be built around the 16-acre site. Once the retaining wall was built surrounding the site, construction of the Twin Towers could begin.
We made columns, which is a wonderful structural system. Very close together columns, very stiff structure, very redundant structure, able to do that which the structure did do, which was to stand there with an enormous number of the columns removed.
Eventually, the towers would rise at an incredible 3 floors every 10 days, and when completed, would stretch a 1/4 mile into the New York sky. The towers would briefly hold the title of the world's tallest buildings, and until September 11, 2001, they were the largest commercial space on the planet.
When the World Trade Center was designed, which was really in the late 1960s, it could truly be said that it was state-of-the-art or beyond state-of-the-art. It was a true engineering marvel of its time.
One of the innovations was making the external walls the primary support for the towers. These outer columns, tied closer together than was normal at the time, could withstand the impact of a Boeing 707. Though the plane would destroy some of the columns, the building would still remain standing.
One thing I've learned about World Trade Center is that the construction of this structure was almost perfect. There's no construction flaws I've seen. Everything was just done so right, so good. It's just genius design.
Though the towers were considered an engineering phenomenon by architects and engineers, they were not widely accepted by the public.
I think it's very poorly designed for work conditions because you do have so many people packed into a small place.
The word might be inhuman, definitely sterile, aesthetically nothing.
The towers were considered ugly, sterile rectangles with few redeeming qualities. They could never hope to be as revered as the city's other skyline icons, the Chrysler Building and the Empire State Building. That is until 1993, when a terrorist bomb failed to bring the towers down.
The World Trade Center was really adopted by New Yorkers after the 1993 bombing. It really became part of people's sympathetic and empathetic imagination when it was wounded but remained standing. We could then see it, if not as a beloved architectural icon, as certainly as a symbol of ourselves and our resistance and our resilience.
But where the terrorists failed to bring down the towers in 1993, others, in a way beyond belief and comprehension, would succeed.
On September 11th, a large jetliner traveling at high speed ran into the World Trade Center. And from the impact and then the weakening of the building due to the fire, they collapsed.
Guy Tozzoli witnessed the horror while on the way to his office on the 77th floor of the North Tower.
And I saw that second plane flying at full speed, and it was horrible. It just disappeared inside the building for a few seconds, and then this great ball of flame. And the first reaction I had was, my God, the poor people above, when I saw that fire that came out. And I was sad. And I confess, I cried. And I sat in my car and cried.
And what had been part of his life for the last 40 years came crashing to the ground.
There is no way that I felt those towers would ever fall and collapse the way they did. Just not possible. And yet they did. Why? Because the fuel, it just melted the steel. And once it collapsed those floors between the elevator core and the outside wall, the building imploded.
When the airplane struck the North Tower, it removed about 2/3 of the columns on the north face of the tower. And similarly, when the plane came in from the south, it removed approximately 2/3 of the columns on the south face of the tower. But what else happened? The engines from those airplanes went into the building, removing structure as it went through. Undoubtedly, many of the inner columns inside of the services core, around elevators and stairs and so forth, were destroyed.
The South Tower remained standing for 56 minutes after impact. Its collapse took 10 seconds. The North Tower, the first hit, stood for 102 minutes after impact.
Look, 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 look.
It collapsed to the ground in 8 seconds.
Oh my goodness.
Dr. Hassan Astane, a professor of structural engineering at the University of California, Berkeley, is examining the causes for the collapse.
The fire weakened the columns of these buildings. When the columns here buckled, this portion dropped on top of this portion. So imagine a 20-story building dropped on top of a 90-story building. And the other one, a 30-story building, dropped on an 80-story building. It kind of hammered everything down, and everything went down.
But the fact that they remained standing for as long as they did is a lasting legacy to the tower's design and construction.
Nobody designed these buildings in the early and mid-60s to withstand what they withstood. You know, we lost 5,000 or 6,000 people, but we saved a lot more. And the fact that these buildings stayed up as long as they did under the devastating assault that they took, I think is testament to the great job that the engineers did and the contractors did when they built these buildings.
Even when you see the work going on at Ground Zero, it's hard to imagine how immense the cleanup project really is. When we come back, we'll go thousands of feet into the air to show you cutting-edge technology being used to monitor the fires in the rubble and keep workers safe.
This is actually an infrared image of the ground as we're passing over it. This is the fire scene right in here. These glowing hot spots. You actually see some of the water jets. There's building 7.
Is this you, rubbing and scrubbing, choking on harsh fumes, only to find that those embarrassing stains won't go away? Have you ever thought it would just be easier to replace it all? Well, stop. Instead of replacing it, restore and maintain it with Kaboom, the all-new porcelain tile and grout restorer. Kaboom is gentle on hands, but tough on household stains. Just spray it on, let it sit, then wipe away stains you thought would never come out. Remove mineral deposits from your basin or toilet. Hard water stains from your glass and shower doors. Plus, Kaboom is like the fountain of youth for your metals. Restore all kinds of copper, cast iron pots and pans, even brass. It restores concrete and stucco so they look like new. It's not abrasive and contains no bleach, ammonia, or phosphorus. Use Kaboom to restore this kitchen sink and this bathroom tile floor to save hundreds of dollars. Instead of replacing it, restore it with Kaboom Porcelain Tile and Grout Restorer. When you order, you'll get 32 ounces of the Kaboom Restorer and this jumbo scrubbing sponge for only $19.99. Call now and we'll also send you a bottle of our all-purpose stain remover with a super absorbent chamois. The stain remover works on food stains in your carpet and spills on your upholstery. And as a pre-spawner for persistent stains that nothing else has worked on, you get this whole package for the exclusive TV price of only $19.99. But we won't stop there. As a special bonus, we'll send you the Kaboom Instant Spot Remover. Keep a spot from becoming a stain. Just target the spot, spray, and the Instant Spot Remover erases it from up to 3 feet away. You get this entire Kaboom restoration kit and over $30 value for only $19.99. But you've got to call now. Here's how to order.
Call to order Kaboom. As a special TV offer, you'll receive a 32-ounce bottle of Kaboom, a 20-ounce bottle of stain remover, and a 14-ounce bottle of Instant Spot Remover for $19.99. Call 1-800-482-8855. That's 1-800-482-8855.
Tuesday on a new Headliners and Legends.
We knew people were in there, so the mission wasn't complete.
I knew I couldn't leave because I couldn't account for her.
I remember him saying, just don't forget that I died trying to save you guys.
On America's most tragic day, ordinary men and women became working class heroes. A new Headliners and Legends, Tuesday at 10 on MSNBC.
It's 6:30 a.m. Larry Scott is flying in a Navajo Chieftain at 130 knots and 8,000 feet. His destination, Ground Zero at the southern tip of Manhattan.
This is actually an infrared image of the ground as we're passing over it.
Using the latest in laser and heat imaging technology, his mission is to help ensure the safety and efficiency of recovery efforts at Ground Zero.
Yeah, we're looking for the winds at 3,000 feet. If you can find someone that has those, that would be great. Thank you. And this is the precise line navigation. And you can see as he lines these, he brings these two indicators into coincidence. He's within literally a few feet of a predetermined track. This is the camera. It's all primed and ready to go. The video's recording. Engage the laser recording. This is Ground Zero. These are the two federal buildings. Communication buildings is over here. Number 7 just went out of sight. I've seen this so many times, I just looked for a couple of key buildings. This is the fire scene right in here. These glowing hot spots. You can actually see some of the water jets. There's building 7.
Scott's mission has 3 vital components. He collects digital pictures to help plan the removal of debris. He maps the site with a device called LiDAR, a sophisticated laser that digitally defines the buildings and rubble heaps. And he records thermal video, a crucial guide to determining the location of ongoing fires. Scott is a technician with Earth Data, a cutting-edge firm working closely with the New York State Office for Technology.
There are still extensive fires burning under the site, and what we're able to do each day when we fly is monitor the change in those fires. So if you've got firemen or anybody around that area working, they could in fact be badly burned by a sudden flare-up.
The LiDAR is the most sophisticated tool for pinpointing potential danger spots.
It's the laser scanner, and it has an infrared pulsing laser and a scanning mirror, and actually measures the topography of the ground. And it's very high speed. It collects like 900,000 points a minute, and the points are just samples of the ground, which goes into making the topographic maps.
The result of this hyper-fast laser is a map revealing the heights and movement of remaining buildings and rubble piles.
We're also monitoring the rubble pile each day to see if there is actually, as I said earlier, condensing rubble, or if rubble's moving in any particular direction. But what we have found out is that the rubble pile is pretty stable.
Earth Data must interpret the LiDAR so that it looks like a skyline and not just so many digital points. So they create colorized maps.
This is data that's actually been extracted from the tapes that you saw being brought in and loaded onto the computers. And what we have here is a sequence of information about what's now known as Ground Zero. This imagery here was taken a year earlier. As you can see clearly here, the Twin Towers are here, and obviously the Twin Towers are completely gone, but you can see here the rubble piles, and you can see here, these are the spikes of what's left of the Northern Tower, and some of them of the hotel, etc., that used to be here as well, the Marriott Hotel.
To make better use of this data, excavation workers also need a good, clear picture of the site.
These images are being used to try and give people an overview of the site. Once you're there at the site and you see the magnitude of the devastation, it's really hard to orient yourself. These images that we took on the first day's flight, you can actually see extensive smoke emitting from this site.
The crystal clear photos are then married to Earth Data's images from the heat-seeking camera.
The fire department gets this information. They decide where they're going to play their hoses onto the fire to try and keep it to a minimum. And if you look right here again, you can see an actual fire hose stream coming out onto this area right here. That's that white stream. And you can see that between the 16th and the 17th that this fire has moved back a little bit, which was the whole plan.
The progression from the first day of shooting, September 16th, shown here in red, is remarkable.
That's the 16th to the 28th.
There's still, obviously hotspots there. What is it like today? Maybe we need to go a little bit further.
Today's the orange. The very beginning to today.
Hopefully, the crisis has been averted.
For the people at Earth Data, there's satisfaction knowing that good information and precise planning have played a vital role at Ground Zero.
There's not been a life lost that I know of on the site since the recovery program started, due to somebody either falling into a void or being burned by a flare-up of a fire. So we, as a team here, get great satisfaction out of the fact that we feel that what we're giving them is keeping people out of harm's way and potential additional loss of life.
Still ahead.
We're averaging between 5,000 and 6,000 tons a day between the two sites.
And the amount of this stuff, and I know you've been looking at, see, look at that. That's 4-inch thick steel that is just twisted up like a pretzel.
What's interesting too, though, is that these bolts didn't fail. This was ripped out, but structurally she held together. That's testament to the people who built it.
What if there was a camera that required no film, that took pictures and shot video and was the size of a pen? Well, now there is, and it's called the Clever Cam because it's 3 cameras in one. Use it as a digital camera for still shots, a PC cam to talk to friends and family on the internet, and it's a mini camcorder that catches moving images. It's the size of a magic marker. In fact, it's so small, it's like having a spy camera. You'll even fool your friends. The Clever Cam never requires film and can be used again and again. It instantly takes and stores up to 360 pictures. That's the equivalent of 13 rolls of film. And when you're ready to view them, just load the software that's included, connect the camera to the USB port, and you can send picture or video to friends and family on the internet. The Clever Cam will take thousands of pictures and is Windows compatible. Print and manipulate pictures too. It's easy to add text or change the brightness or contrast of images. Just point and shoot. you'll always have a camera for precious moments. Because it's so lightweight, you really can take it anywhere. Just frame using the viewfinder and press the button. It uses 2 AAA batteries, powers up instantly, so you'll always get the shot. The CleverCam captures up to 360 priceless memories or takes up to 45 seconds of streaming video. Other products are bulky and sell for up to $500 each and require expensive memory cards. The CleverCam is smaller, quicker, and is yours for just 3 easy payments of $29.99. You'll receive the CleverCam, complete with software, the USB connector cable, and the stand so you can use it as a PC cam when you call. But call right now and we'll also include this suite of ArcSoft photo and video software, a $120 value, free to help you make mini movies and manipulate pictures. That's a huge value for just 3 easy payments of $29.99. So call this number right now.
To order CleverCam for only 3 easy payments of $29.99 plus shipping, call 1-800-558-0110 or send check or money order to the address on your screen. Call now to order 1-800-558-0110.
It looks like you're blushing, but the blushing never really goes away.
I felt so self-conscious. I mean, why is my face always so red?
I thought it was acne, but at my age?
It was embarrassing.
If you have redness on your face that doesn't go away, you could be one of the 12 million Americans with a skin condition called rosacea. Rosacea can get worse if it's not treated, so call this toll-free number and get the facts about effective rosacea treatments that are available.
Now I feel relieved. I know what it is, I know how to treat it, and I'm myself again.
When you call, you'll receive a free booklet that tells you what rosacea is and describes things you can do to help keep your rosacea under control. You'll also receive a free list of dermatologists in your area who can diagnose and treat your rosacea.
Now people look at me, not the redness.
Isn't it time you faced up to rosacea? Make the call today.
This face is looking good these days.
The complete picture as America strikes back. The news with Brian Williams, weeknights at 8, only on MSNBC.
The work at Ground Zero can at times be overwhelming. Of course, it's the place where nearly 5,000 people lost their lives. And now crews are working hard to clear the immense amount of debris. But one of the biggest challenges is what to do with the nearly 2 billion pounds of rubble.
Been on a lot of big projects. This is different. I mean, I don't think the city of New York has ever seen anything like this.
Or the world of engineering, for that matter. Companies like Weeks Marine are working overtime on one of the biggest excavation projects in history.
Currently in the project we have about 90 personnel, over 30 barges, 4 loading cranes, and about 3 tugboats being used to transport the debris and the steel.
Workers at Ground Zero move piles of rubble into dump trucks. The trucks haul the debris and steel to Weeks Marine at 2 waterfront sites in Lower Manhattan. Cranes capable of moving more than 50 tons a load get the debris onto the barges.
We're averaging between 5,000 and 6,000 tons a day between the 2 sites.
Marty Corcoran is the operation manager. He arrived on site soon after the attacks.
I guess this is what war looks like. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I've never seen anything quite like it in my life.
Once the refuse is on the barges, it is sent to locations around New York Harbor. Captain Scott Murray runs a small tug, perfect for the tight fit of New York Harbor.
This is a 62-foot, 1,000 horsepower tugboat. You know, it's real good for this type of work that we're doing with these smaller scows, harbor work.
Murray has been in this line of work for 25 years, but this job hits home.
One of the things I've always loved about working in New York Harbor is working around Lower Manhattan here in the East River and this view of Lower Manhattan and the skyline. So now, every time I look over there and see that without the World Trade Center in it, it's like being kicked in the stomach.
Today, Murray is making runs across the East River. Pier 6 in Brooklyn is a staging point. Murray drops off 1 full barge here picks up an empty one, and returns to Manhattan for more loads. From there, the full barges are toted off to Fresh Kills landfill and recycling plants in New Jersey.
The amount of this stuff, and I know you've been looking at, see, look at that. That's 4-inch thick steel. They're just twisted up like a pretzel.
One of the drop-off points is the Hugo New Schnitzer East processing plant in Jersey City. General Manager Bob Kelman says they're taking in about 3,000 tons a day.
There's two different types of material coming in. Some of it is kind of a mixed light iron material, a lot of building interiors, ductwork, paneling type material, metal paneling. And the balance is the original heavy beams that came off the World Trade Center site from, I believe, about September, right after the attack on the 11th to about the 19th of September.
The operation is working around the clock to handle up to 110 trucks and 4 barges a day. Once offloaded, the steel is cut up into smaller pieces using massive shears, so-called guillotines, and high-powered acetylene torches.
We're basically trying to cut it into segments. It's going to be manageable. But because the material, it's so thick and so heavy, they'll cut cross-section on top, then we'll flip the whole piece over and cut the bottom. The method is just to get it super hot, and you're blowing air, using fuel and oxygen to get it hot, molten. Then you blow air to actually blow the molten steel down below. And you start cutting it, it's like cutting like a knife. You have to get it to that critical melt point, and then you can keep blowing. It's the only way you can cut this. Only way.
The beams are cut into 2 to 3 foot blocks for easier transport and ultimately melting down.
The material is going anywhere from China and the balance of Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Taiwan, Singapore. It's going to the best available market at any given time.
The scrapyard has become a scientific laboratory of sorts. Engineers from around the country have come here to examine the steel and learn more about why the Twin Towers collapsed. Dr. Hassan Astane brought samples back to the University of California, Berkeley.
What happened here was actually the engine went in and took a chunk from the side of the column. In this picture, you see the piece.
A section of the airplane actually struck what we're looking at here, and it's exampled by the way that the material, the steel, is almost cut like a knife. The steel is flared in. It's kind of sliced like butter, and according to the professor, and it seems to bear, hold up, that what we're looking at is something that was hit at a very high velocity by something very hard.
And after engine went through it and cut this piece, the column was standing, or the rest of it.
Astane has developed his own classifications for the massive amounts of steel coming out of ground zero.
One is critical. These critical members are those that were hit with the plane, and I found perhaps 4 of them.
Like this one.
It was part of one of the larger rectangular box columns, and what I understand is that these were part of the internal supports of the building near the elevator shafts. So this was deep inside the building. What we have here is another example pointed out by the professor of what he believes indicates a massive impact by either a part of the fuselage or perhaps part of the body of the airplane itself or an engine.
The second category is important members, beams that heated up and buckled.
This is one of the beams that obviously took a lot of heat damage and actually started to melt because it burned right through. There's a burn hole, and it actually kind of collapsed onto itself, and clearly due to the heat. And it's significantly corroded and melted. And the backside of it is gone. Intense heat that they've been talking about, the 1,500 degrees to 2,000 degrees.
The third category, valuable members, consists simply of beams twisted and mangled by the collapse. And finally, pieces that don't need to be studied and can be recycled immediately. Yet even they tell stories.
What's interesting too, though, is that these bolts didn't fail. This was ripped out, but structurally she held together. From all indications, we're seeing a lot of bolts that are in place. And That's testament to the people who built it.
For Kelman and his crew, the long hours and the nature of the work have taken their toll.
That's our skyline now. For 30 years, we knew it from this facility with the Twin Towers as part of the battery and, you know, the Statue of Liberty, and instead of the buildings being there, they're here. It's nuts.
Just ahead, a rare glimpse inside these crumbled buildings. We'll take a tour of Building 5, where some firefighters spent the first few weeks searching for survivors there.
What we're looking at here is some of the less damaged area of this whole 1 and 2 World Trade Center complex, isn't it?
It is, because you could see openings, you could see daylight, you could see areas through beams. There are areas across the plaza that it's just solid all the way through, and maybe you'll see a hole that's as wide as my shoulders, and that's about it.
Tuesday on a new Headliners and Legends.
We knew people were in there, so the mission wasn't complete.
I knew I couldn't leave because I couldn't account for her.
I remember him saying, just don't forget that I died trying to save you guys.
On America's most tragic day, ordinary men and women became working-class heroes. A new Headliners and Legends, Tuesday at 10 on MSNBC.
Ladies, wouldn't it be great to have a professional hairstylist do your hair every day? Because styling and blow drying with the wrong brush can be damaging to your hair and takes forever. Well, not anymore. This is the Euro-V Professional Styling Brush. It's 2 brushes in one. Simply squeeze, and you'll be able to go from this to this in just minutes. Why? Because up until now, Euro-V's revolutionary patented design has only been available to hair professionals. With its squeeze and glide technology and its aluminum alloy heat plates that diffuse the heat and let you dry your hair, not fry your hair. Euro-V protects hair from the harmful heat of blow dryers while polishing and conditioning your hair. Go from messy to dressy with Euro-V. All you do is squeeze and glide and let the natural boar bristles smooth the hair and give it great shine, while the sectional prongs make the perfect sections every time. You'll never go back to your old brushes once you try Euro-V. No more cords to unplug. No more of these dangerous flattening and curling irons. Right or left-handed, styling has never been so easy. Rounded boar bristles on the edge give your hair that beautiful soft curve and bounce you'll love. Make dry and frizzy hair look beautiful and glossy. Thin hair look full. And thick hair will be easier to blow dry than you've ever imagined. You can actually cut your styling time in half. Use Euro-V to get that professional blown out look every day. You can get your Euro-V today for only $14.99. If Euro-V isn't the easiest way you've ever styled your hair, dried your hair, and straightened your hair that you've ever used, don't keep it. It comes with our unconditional money-back guarantee. Order in the next 10 minutes and we'll include our Euro-V travel brush. That's right, you get both the Euro-V full-size and the Euro-V travel brush, all for just $14.99. Ladies, go from drab to totally fab with your Euro-V.
To order Euro-V, call 1-800-851-4477. That's 1-800-851-4477. Or send a check or money order to the address listed. So call 1-800-851-4477.
Your pet's exact same heartworm and flea medications delivered to your door for less than you're paying now.
It costs less than buying from my veterinarian.
Took less than 5 minutes to order.
You don't have to make an appointment. You don't have to miss work.
Now I call Pet Meds and get my pet's heartworm medication delivered right to my door.
The exact same flea and tick medications you get from your vet. Only they're cheaper.
1-888-PET-MEDS. We deliver savings and convenience on HeartGuard, Advantage, Frontline, and all other pet medications. Call to order now or order online.
September 11th, 10:05 a.m. The South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. 10:28 a.m. The North Tower falls. Some 8 hours later, Building 7 crumbles. But the destruction wrought by the hijacked jets goes far beyond the buildings that collapsed. Richard Tomasetti's engineering firm is at ground zero every day, assessing the damage for the city of New York.
Well, the World Trade Center buildings, the North Tower, the South Tower, okay, the hotel, and World Trade Center number 7 are totally down. And then the numbers 4, 5, and 6 are severely damaged, partially collapsed, with a lot of major damage in the portions that are not collapsed, all of which will have to be demolished.
Building 5, for instance, sits northeast of where the Twin Towers stood. A black 9-story structure that housed 36 companies. To see why it has to be demolished, all you have to do is look inside.
This, for a reference point, would have been the plaza.
Just days after the attack, MSNBC's Ashley Banfield got an exclusive first-hand look inside Building 5.
If you can see down on the right-hand side, you can see handprints along the wall.
Yeah.
You could actually see that the wall is bowed out.
What are those handprints from?
That would be because they lost all electric power in here. The people are going to grab, you always grab a wall, and you follow the wall to the end. If you know where you're going, you're going to hold the wall until you come to the doorway. You're in pitch black. We have the ceiling, which has been pushed up, which means this wall is moved. We don't know how stable or unstable it is on the other side of this wall. This is where, if you went out onto the other side, there's a globe of the world there. And opposite from here, the antenna is still standing, which slid down off the top of the roof of building number 1. Who
is in here? What is all that debris outside?
This is all part of the superstructure of the building, all of the drywall and the offices from above. The red columns are from building 1 or 2. That's the steel work from those buildings. This debris here looks as if it came from this building, because most of the steel work has a distinct pattern to it. Across the way, that's number 1.
This is building 1 over here. This
Straight
is what's left over?
What's left of it. You can see, yeah, just stay right here. This, we don't know. We got a chandelier here.
Yeah.
Straight out, that's the back end of the building.
Technically speaking, what we're looking at here is some of the less damaged area of this whole 1 and 2 World Trade Center complex, isn't it?
It is, because you could see openings, you could see daylight, you could see areas through beams. There are areas across the plaza that it's just solid all the way through, and maybe you'll see a hole that's as wide as my shoulders, and that's about it.
Is this one of the first areas you came down to try to get low into the debris to see what you could?
Yep. So as you can see out in this way here, got debris that's fallen through. Right here on this corner, if we made the right turn, that takes you down, all the way down into the entrance of building number 1, and then you would make a left off into building number 2.
How far are we walking in this concourse right now from where building 1 and 2 would have been? How many minutes would it take me to walk from here to building 1 and 2's concourse if I were...
At a nice pace, probably about 5 minutes. Okay, this area here, off to the left, is an entrance for New York City's subway system, the A and the E train. The gentleman had his newsstand over here. The debris wall that you see over there, that's another entrance that would have been out on VC Street, coming in through the lobby of building 5. You could have made the right-hand turn, go down the escalator, long set of escalators down to the path system, continue a little bit past there, make another right-hand turn, and that would take you into the entrances of buildings 1 and 2.
Even the buildings that will survive suffered severe damage. The American Express building, roughly 400 feet to the west of the towers, looked like a war zone inside just 5 days after the attack. Virtually no building in Lower Manhattan escaped untouched. Along with the gray-colored buildings, which are gone, and the red ones to be demolished, those in blue had major structural damage. But the damaged buildings in gold are sound, and all of those in beige required cleaning.
Once the buildings are repaired, they will be as good as new. There's absolutely no residual damage.
But at ground zero, the real damage is not hidden in the structures of its buildings. It is seen up close in the skeletal remains of what once stood as a symbol of pride for all of New York.
If you're looking at it as a construction site and you're just removing debris, it's great. You know, you're zipping through the project. But if you look at it as still thousands of people that haven't been found, it's horrible.
Still ahead.
New York is about skyscrapers. It's about high residential towers. That's the guts of the city. That's the essence of this city.
We're going to rebuild. We're not only going to rebuild, we're going to come out of this stronger than we were before.
What if there was a camera that required no film, that took pictures and shot video and was the size of a pen? Well, now there is, and it's called the CleverCam because it's 3 cameras in one. Use it as a digital camera for still shots, a PC cam to talk to friends and family on the internet, and it's a mini camcorder that catches moving images. It's the size of a magic marker. In fact, it's so small, it's like having a spy camera. You'll even fool your friends. The CleverCam never requires film and can be used again and again. It instantly takes and stores up to 360 pictures. That's the equivalent of 13 rolls of film. And when you're ready to view them, just load the software that's included, connect the camera to the USB port, and you can send picture or video to friends and family on the internet. The CleverCam will take thousands of pictures and is Windows compatible. Print and manipulate pictures too. It's easy to add text or change the brightness or contrast of images. Just point and shoot. You'll always have a camera for precious moments. Because it's so lightweight, you really can take it anywhere. Just frame using the viewfinder and press the button. It uses 2 AAA batteries, powers up instantly, so you'll always get the shot. The CleverCam captures up to 360 priceless memories or takes up to 45 seconds of streaming video. Other products are bulky and sell for up to $500 each and require expensive memory cards. The CleverCam is smaller, quicker, and is yours for just 3 easy payments of $29.99. You'll receive the CleverCam, complete with software, the USB connector cable, and the stand so you can use it as a PC cam when you call. But call right now and we'll also include this suite of ArcSoft photo and video software, a $120 value, free to help you make mini movies and manipulate pictures. That's a huge value for just 3 easy payments of $29.99. So call this number right now.
To order CleverCam for only 3 easy payments of $29.99 plus shipping, call 1-800-558-0110 or send check or money order to the address on your screen. Call now to order 1-800-558-0110.
Hi, I'm Mike Reagan. As my dad liked to say, it's morning again in America. President George Bush is making America great again. He's cutting taxes, strengthening our military, and giving Americans a sense of optimism. Show your support for him with this new t-shirt. Wear it at home, wear it at the gym, wear it everywhere I do. Let all Americans know you support him and you're tired of the big media. Newsmax.com, my favorite website, is offering this t-shirt to you. As a special bonus, get a free 4-month subscription to Newsmax's magazine. That's a value of almost $20. Newsmax magazine is mailed to your home each month and filled with the stories the big media just won't report on. Edited by award-winning journalist Christopher Ruddy, it breaks the big stories the media won't touch. It also includes my column, read Bill O'Reilly, David Limbaugh, and others. Don't miss this opportunity.
While the World Trade Center has become hallowed ground for Americans, it is also a working laboratory for structural engineers, architects, and forensic scientists, all studying the wreckage and the attack for clues about the future of skyscrapers.
New York is about skyscrapers. It's about high residential towers. That's the guts of the city. That's the essence of this city.
Before September 11th, there was only one other time in history when an aircraft hit a New York skyscraper. In 1945, a B-25 bomber, lost in the fog, slammed into the 78th and 79th floors of the Empire State Building. The 102-story queen of the New York City skyline absorbed the hit and suffered minimal damage, but that plane only weighed 10 tons. The World Trade Center towers were attacked with approximately 185 tons of aircraft, carrying 75 tons of jet fuel. Though the structures seemed to withstand the impact, the explosions and the subsequent heat from the burning jet fuel were beyond its limits. The nearly 2,000-degree temperature would eventually take its toll, weakening the infrastructure, and in less than 2 hours, reducing the Twin Towers to a memory.
Even with all of that, the buildings were able to last for an hour, almost 2 hours in one case. And that's in part because of the nature of the structural system. It's what we call redundant.
That redundancy did cause the portions above where the planes hit to stay up in one building about an hour, another building more than an hour and a half. And the good news is 15 to 20,000 people escape from those buildings. 15 to 20,000 people escaped to those buildings. So I was delighted that they at least stayed up that long.
But despite the extraordinary strength of the towers, September 11th has caused Americans to rethink nearly everything in their lives, including the safety of buildings in which they work and live. At his Berkeley lab, Professor Estane is studying new methods of wall construction that would provide better protection from an air attack.
First, we should make sure that the plane does not collapse the building, the impact. Second thing is we should make sure that the plane does not get inside as easily, as fast as it did. So it does not deliver the whole fuel into the building. And in order to do that, we are trying to develop like this kind of wall that is a composite wall of steel and concrete, and that might prevent that kind of getting plane into the building that easily.
But even with improvements, can skyscrapers ever be built to make us feel safe?
You know, I could probably wear a vest that will always protect me if you throw a baseball at me. Now, once I've solved that problem, I have to start looking at what's the next projectile that you're going to throw at me. You can improve a building and improve its behavior for terrorist types of attacks, such as explosions. I don't know if you can design a city that can never be damaged from a bombing raid.
It's not the kind of building that we want to live and work in. We're talking now about building real forts. They're not buildings anymore. I mean, they're devices designed to resist airplanes, which is a different animal. I don't think that's what we want in our lives.
By all estimates, the debris at Ground Zero will take a year or more to clear. But the debate for the future of the 16-acre site has already begun.
We're going to rebuild. And we're not only going to rebuild, we're going to come out of this stronger than we were before.
We have to rebuild. And they'll put a group together, and maybe I'll be part of it, I hope. But I know from my association that people all over the world are still playing in Shanghai and other places in China. They're still talking about buildings 1,500 feet high.
To New Yorkers, the tall buildings are essential to the landscape, part necessity and part pride.
If cities have a personality like you and I do, and I think they do have a personality, certainly New York does, it is not only the ability to welcome people from all over the world, but it's the ability to get off the mat and get up again and, in a way, not be afraid. And if you want a gracious, easy life, this never was a good place for you.
Before September 11th, 250,000 people passed through the World Trade Center every day. Now it's limited to the hundreds involved in the cleanup. 46 days after the attack, they were joined by thousands of mourners.
This gave them an opportunity to see it in a more spiritual atmosphere and quite frankly, from a different perspective. You're looking at maybe a fifth of Building 4, which is still standing. The rest of Building 4 is gone. And kind of looking out behind you at some of the destroyed facades, and to kind of sit there and hear the music and listen to the words that were being spoken in that atmosphere, I know was stirring for everybody.
Each person sees something different in the rubble of the World Trade Center. But for the families of the lost, it's where dreams died and a new national resolve was born. A poll taken just a few weeks after the World Trade Center attacks showed that 2/3 of New Yorkers think that the World Trade Center should be rebuilt. What form it will take and what memorial it will include are still up for debate. That's our program. Thanks for watching. I'm John Siegenthaler.
For continuing coverage, go to our website at msnbc.com.
Hello, I'm Jeannie Ohm with continuing coverage of America Strikes Back on MSNBC. Here are the top stories. The Associated Press is reporting that 2 French journalists were killed in a Taliban ambush in Afghanistan. A third foreign journalist is missing and presumed dead. The journalist reportedly fell from a Northern Alliance armored personnel carrier after it came under fire. Afghan opposition forces, though, say they've got the Taliban on the run. They now claim to have seized control of half of Afghanistan. The Northern Alliance foreign minister says the rebels are now approaching the capital city of Kabul. President Bush, meanwhile, is urging the rebels to hold off taking Kabul until a coalition government can be formed. To mark the 2-month anniversary of the September 11th attacks, the president attended a ground zero ceremony to honor the dead. Mr. Bush started the morning at a Veterans Day breakfast where he again vowed victory in the war on terrorism. But Osama bin Laden says he won't be captured alive. In an interview with a Pakistani newspaper, bin Laden also claimed having nothing to do with the anthrax attacks. Investigators, meanwhile, have found more trace amounts of anthrax in the Hart Senate office building. An anthrax-tainted letter was originally sent to Majority Leader Tom Daschle. 5 other senators' offices have now tested positive. The building had already been shut down for cleaning. Well, those are the headlines. Stay with MSNBC for the latest developments. I'm Jeannie Ohm.
Another one just hit. Live pictures of the Pentagon.
A nation under aerial attack, a president put to the test.
Today, we've had a national tragedy.
At first, uncertainty.
We don't know where the president is right now.
Then a growing resolve.
They were acts of war. And the commitment of our fathers is now the calling of our time.
He's been tested, but never like he's being tested now.
I can hear you!
His words are at times blunt.
Wanted, dead or alive.
And they are unequivocal.
We will not tire, we will not falter, and we will not fail.
This is how it began.
MSNBC reports. Days of crisis. The Commander-in-Chief. Here is Brian Williams.
Thank you for joining us. September 11th, 2001 changed everything. The attack on the United States that morning ended thousands of lives and thrust this country and the world into an unwelcome, uncertain future. It also changed the way America sees its president and the way the president would come to see himself and his job. George W. Bush came into office in peacetime, but now presides over a nation at war. His narrow election victory had left the country divided, but it became his job to unite a nation in crisis. His priority had been domestic policy, and he was inexperienced on the world stage. But the attack left him no choice. He would have to adjust. He would have to learn and do it quickly and with the whole world watching. September 11th, 2001 changed everything. Over the next hour, a revealing look at how it all began, what George Bush said, and what he did in the crucial hours and days after the attack. We will see how uncertainty turned into resolve, how the president found his voice and his mission, how days of crisis redefined the commander-in-chief. Later, we'll hear from former President Bush and other members of the Bush family. But we begin with a Tuesday morning in Florida.
Hey, just warming up. Come on, stretch.
It is just before sunrise in Sarasota. The president starts this day with a jog. The battle over the Florida election the previous year seems a distant memory. After his jog, a brief exchange with reporters.
How far did you go altogether? 4.5. 4.5 miles? I think so.
And Bush heads back to the hotel for his daily national security briefing. He prepares for the day. In Boston, Newark, and Dulles Airport outside Washington, 4 commercial airliners take off with a total of 19 hijackers on board. At 8:47 a.m., one of those jets crashes into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. 9 a.m., the president is in a classroom of second graders at Emma Booker Elementary School in Sarasota. He's been told of the crash, but in those first moments, it is thought, perhaps hoped, that it had just been a terrible accident. At 9:03 a.m., those hopes are shattered.
I mean, do you know if there were many people in the building? Oh, another one just hit.
Something else just hit. A very large plane just flew directly over my building, and there's been another collision. Can you see it? I can see it on this shot.
Minutes later, White House Chief of Staff Andy Card whispers in the president's ear, the second tower has been hit. America is under attack. The awful news registers on the president's face as the cameras roll. Unwilling to alarm the children, he patiently remains in the classroom for another 6 minutes, listening to the students while his thoughts are literally miles away.
Mr. President, are you aware of the reports of the plane crash in New York? Is there anything? Talk about it later. Thank you all.
In a holding room at the school, he gets on the phone to Washington, and for the first time, he sees the television pictures that America has been watching live, the burning Twin Towers in New York. At 9:30 a.m., a visibly shaken president makes his first public statement.
Today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand.
Bush immediately leaves for the Sarasota airport. First Lady Laura Bush at this moment is on Capitol Hill, where she had planned to speak on education, but things have changed.
Well, parents need to reassure their children everywhere in our country that they're safe.
But no one feels safe. Just moments before, unbeknownst to Mrs. Bush, a third hijacked airliner crashes, this one into the Pentagon. And a fourth jet is in the air over Pennsylvania, headed for Washington, D.C. In Sarasota, the president arrives at the airport, still on the phone to Washington. At 9:48 a.m., the White House is evacuated. Secret Service agents virtually carry Vice President Cheney to a bomb-proof room in the basement of the White House.
Once I got down into the shelter, the first thing I did, there's a secure phone there. First thing I did was pick up the telephone and call the president again, who was still down in Florida at that point, and strongly urged him to delay his return.
The crisis now enters its second hour. Amid heavy security, President Bush boards Air Force One, which then departs Sarasota at 9:55 a.m. and climbs to high altitude, taking evasive measures once airborne, flying in an erratic pattern. At 9:59, as the president and the nation watch in horror, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. Just minutes later, United Flight 93 crashes in western Pennsylvania after passengers overpower 4 hijackers. The plane had been heading for Washington. At 10:28 a.m. in New York, the North Tower collapses. The World Trade Center, New York's tallest buildings and a powerful symbol of American might, are simply gone. Thousands are buried in the rubble. Lower Manhattan is in chaos. To the south in Washington, part of the Pentagon is in ruins. But George Bush does not return to Washington. The Vice President and the Secret Service recommend that the President delay his return for security reasons, and he does not overrule them. Air Force One is diverted. At 11:45 a.m., 3 hours into the crisis, the president arrives at Barksdale Air Force Base outside Shreveport, Louisiana. Security is tight. The president's location remains secret until local news media reports that Air Force One has landed. The military is at DEFCON Delta, the highest possible state of alert, and the scope of the crisis is only beginning to come clear. A grim-faced George Bush makes his second public statement of the crisis.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended. Make no mistake, the United States will hunt down and punish those responsible for these cowardly acts. The resolve of our great nation is being tested. But make no mistake, we will show the world that we will pass this test. God bless.
Bush himself is now also facing a test. His statement, intended to reassure, does not, as administration officials themselves later concede. He leaves Barksdale Air Force Base, but his destination is again kept secret. In fact, a refueled Air Force One flies to Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, arriving at 2:50 p.m. An anxious nation of television viewers has not been told why the president has flown even farther away from Washington, which only adds to the tension. Security remains at the highest possible level. The president is immediately taken to an underground bunker on the base where he conducts a National Security Council meeting by teleconference. When the administration does make its next public statement, it comes not from the president, not the vice president, nor from the White House, long since evacuated. It comes instead from presidential counselor Karen Hughes at a briefing room at FBI headquarters.
Air Force One has now landed at Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska, and the president is in a secure location.
On one of the worst days in American history, the President of the United States is not seen or heard from publicly for more than 6 hours. The White House later says they had reason to believe Air Force One was a possible target, but the administration subsequently backs away from that claim. Just after 4:30 p.m., Bush is heading back, telling aides on board, "I'm not going to let some tin-horn terrorist keep the president out of Washington." Air Force One flies with a fighter jet escort, as it has all day. At 6:55 p.m., 10 hours after the attack on America had gotten underway, George W. Bush is back at the White House. Just a few miles away sits the damaged Pentagon. In Lower Manhattan, the scene is one of utter chaos. America wants and needs to hear from its president. Just after 8:30 p.m., Bush speaks to the nation from the Oval Office.
A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them.
Speaking from the White House that evening, the president seemed to many to be more in command than he had earlier in the day. And his reference to those who harbor terrorists was a sure signal that a sweeping response to the attacks was taking shape. But George W. Bush was just beginning to realize how dramatically things had changed, as we'll see when we continue.
America, it's a new kind of war. And I understand it's a new kind of war. And this government will adjust.
You're watching MSNBC.
Want to rearrange the living room, dust behind that chest, move that king-size bed?
Better get some moving men. No, not those moving men. These moving men.
Just slip a moving man under each leg, and even the heaviest piece slides along effortlessly. They're made of a highly polished polymer and fitted with a special grip pad for the legs to rest on. These men can hardly budge this armoire, yet this woman can slide it clear across the room. This couple rearranged their living room in just a few minutes. Sliding furniture without the moving men can bunch up and damage expensive carpeting. Wow, what a difference. Even the bed moves with ease. And no more rewiring when you move your entertainment system. You get 2 sets of moving men for just $19.99, plus 8 mini movers for things you frequently move. Watch, here's one more incredible demo. We placed a moving man under each tire, and this car slides along like magic. Order now and get all 16 pieces for just $19.99.
To order, have your credit card ready and call 1-800-214-8951 or send check or money order to the address on your screen. That's 1-800-214-8951. Call now.
I wish I knew the name of the person who had the idea for this new magazine. It's called Lucky, the magazine about, guess what? Shopping. I want to hug this person and thank her or him for making the most helpful, useful magazine anyone who shops could ever have. Lucky shops the designer showrooms, shops the fashion shows, shops the stores. They pick out only the great stuff, only the best looks, the best trends, and best of all, they tell you where you can buy everything you see. The store name, its location, phone number, or web address is always right by the photo of everything they show. And since Lucky doesn't ever sell anything themselves, you get their honest picks. Then you pick just what you like and go get it. Call now for a free trial issue. If you like it, you'll get all 12 issues for just $1 an issue. Or simply write cancel on your bill and you'll never get Lucky again. And you'll get this cool Lucky tote bag absolutely free. So, call now for Lucky.
1-800-472-5200.
America awoke on the morning of September 12th, 2001, still in shock, trying to comprehend the enormity of just what had happened the day before. But the nightmare was real. The World Trade Center, which had towered over Lower Manhattan for 30 years, had been brought down, hit by 2 commercial airliners loaded with jet fuel and reduced to rubble, with thousands of people still inside. The Pentagon, headquarters to the mightiest military in the world, also hit. And in western Pennsylvania, a crater left by the crash of a 4th commercial jet. Its intended target, perhaps the Capitol or the White House. We later learned that fighter jets had been ordered to shoot it down if it had approached either one. On Wednesday morning, President Bush was at the White House saying what many Americans were already thinking.
The deliberate and deadly attacks which were carried out yesterday against our country were more than acts of terror. They were acts of war. This is an enemy who preys on innocent and unsuspecting people, then runs for cover. But it won't be able to run for cover forever. This is an enemy that tries to hide, but it won't be able to hide forever. This is an enemy that thinks its harbors are safe, but they won't be safe forever. We will rally the world. We will be patient, we'll be focused, and we will be steadfast in our determination. This battle will take time and resolve, but make no mistake about it, we will win.
For the first time since the attack, the president is talking in terms of war. The last president to go to war was also named Bush, and men who served the father now serve the son, including Vice President Dick Cheney and Secretary of State Colin Powell. Late afternoon, the president visits the damaged Pentagon with Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, who the day before had refused to leave the building after it was attacked. Workers unfurl an American flag, just as flags are being displayed everywhere across the country.
Coming here makes me sad on the one hand. It also makes me angry. And our country will, however, not be cowed by terrorists.
Good morning, man.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Yeah, thank you all.
The president makes a telephone call from the Oval Office, speaking to New York Governor Pataki and Mayor Giuliani. Bush offers condolences, support, and the promise of a visit to Ground Zero the next day.
First of all, I can't tell you how sad I am and America is for the people of New York City and the tri-state area. But make no mistake about it, my resolve is steady and strong about winning this war that has been declared on America. It's a new kind of war. And I understand it's a new kind of war. And this government will adjust.
Thank you, Mr. President.
After the phone call, the president takes questions from reporters. Questions like, had he done the right thing the day before in not returning immediately to Washington?
I believe I took the, I know I took the appropriate actions as the Commander-in-Chief to be in a position to be able to make the decisions necessary for our government to handle the crisis.
Then comes a question a little closer to home.
Could you give us a sense as to what kind of prayers you are thinking and where your heart is for yourself as you work on that?
I think about myself right now. I think about the families, the children. I'm a loving guy, and I'm also someone, however, who's got a job to do, and I intend to do it.
An emotional George Bush at the White House 2 days now after the attack. In the afternoon, more emotion as the President and First Lady visit hospitalized survivors of the attack at the Pentagon.
Some of the folks could talk, and they described the horror of the incident in the moment. They talked about escaping, going through fire, and crawling through debris. That it's clear that they were fighting for their survival then, and like every patient up there, they're still fighting for their survival. On Tuesday, our country was attacked with deliberate and massive cruelty. We have seen the images of fire and ashes and bent steel.
A national day of prayer and remembrance. The leaders of government gather at Washington's National Cathedral. George W. Bush, not known before this crisis as a particularly gifted public speaker, rises to the occasion.
War has been waged against us by stealth and deceit and murder. This nation is peaceful, but fierce when stirred to anger. This conflict was begun on the timing and terms of others. It will end in a way and at an hour of our choosing. It is said that adversity introduces us to ourselves. This is true of a nation as well. In this trial, we have been reminded, and the world has seen, that our fellow Americans are generous and kind, resourceful and brave. America is a nation full of good fortune, with so much to be grateful for. But we are not spared from suffering. In every generation, the world has produced enemies of human freedom. They have attacked America because we are freedom's home and defender. And the commitment of our fathers is now the calling of our time.
In a small but telling gesture caught by television cameras, Bush's own father shows his admiration for his son, the Commander-in-Chief. Former Presidents Carter, Ford, and Clinton are also on hand. None of them, in fact, no other president, ever faced anything quite like the crisis now facing this president. In the afternoon, George Bush makes his promised visit to New York City. He is warmly welcomed by Governor Pataki and Mayor Giuliani. Smoke still rises from the ruins of the World Trade Center, a hellish scene first visible from the president's approaching helicopter. On the ground, hundreds of rescue workers have been laboring around the clock, finding no survivors. They need a lift, and the president, who is handed a bullhorn in an unplanned moment, gives them that lift.
I want you all to know that America today is on bended knee in prayer for the people whose lives were lost here, for the workers who work here, for the families who mourn. This nation stands with the good people of New York City and New Jersey and Connecticut as we mourn the loss of thousands of our citizens. I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
In that one moment, some would later say it was as if George W. Bush truly became president right then and there. making a connection on a gut level with an audience desperate for reassurance, for leadership. The president was building support across the board, including in Congress, which just that night overwhelmingly authorized the use of force. But George Bush was still learning, and there would be missteps, as we'll see in just a moment.
This crusade, this war on terrorism, is going to take a while.
Watch this. Watch this carpet stain disappear right before your eyes. Introducing Quick 10, a revolutionary new spot and stain remover from the makers of Instagon. Just spray Quick 10 on any spot or stain and watch it vanish. It's amazing. Whether it's soda, iced tea, black coffee, or red wine, Quick 10 gets rid of any stain with no rubbing and no scrubbing necessary. Uh-oh, you'll need an expensive steam cleaner for this job. Not with Quick 10, just spray it on and even greasy dirt stains vanish. Stubborn, smelly pet stains too. A simple spray removes the stain and the odor. Quick 10 works on any stain, on any carpet. And now the amazing Quick 10 is yours for only $19.95.
With other products I tried, stains would always come back after a day or two. But with Quick 10, stains disappear and they stay gone. It even worked on old stains I thought would never come out. It's just fantastic. Quick 10 really works.
And now you can take the Quick 10 challenge in your home risk-free. Use it on any carpet or upholstery, on any stain, new or old. If Quick 10 isn't the best spot and stain remover you've ever tried, return it for a full refund. Oh no! Mom, you've seen this one before, but Quick 10 keeps your furniture looking like new. Quick 10 works great in cars and vans, RVs and boats too. Order Quick 10 now through this exclusive TV offer, and we'll double your order absolutely free. That's a $40 value for just $19.95. But wait! If you'll call and take us up on the Quick 10 challenge in the next 10 minutes, we'll give you an extra supply for another 32 ounces of Quick 10 at no extra charge. That's 96 ounces of Quick 10 for only $19.95.
To order Quick 10, have your credit card ready and call 1-800-991-8866. That's 1-800-991-8866. Or send a check or money order to the address on your screen. So call 1-800-991-8866.
Hi, interested in earning free airline miles?
Sure.
Think you don't fly enough to earn them?
Yes.
Think miles are good on only one airline?
Yes.
Think again. Every day more people are flying to more places free.
How? It's easy. With the Citibank Advantage World MasterCard.
Call now and you could get 1 mile for every dollar you spend. And use your miles on over 20 top airlines. And now your miles never expire when you make a purchase with your card once every 3 years. Plus, we'll give you 8,000 bonus miles. Sound good?
Yes.
You'll earn miles on everyday purchases. And with no preset spending limit, you'll have the spending power you want. Call now and get 8,000 bonus miles. And before you know it, you could fly on over 20 top airlines, drive with every major car rental company, and stay at the finest hotels free. All with the miles that take you further. From Citibank Advantage World MasterCard. Perfect. Call about getting your Citibank Advantage World MasterCard and 8,000 bonus miles.
Hi, I'm Jeff Bezos. Amazon.com and MSNBC have put together a selection of books, including those you see here, to help bring you clarity and perspective. So log on now to our special website, Amazon.com/NBC, because no matter where you live, books expand our world.
This act will not stand. We will find those who did it. We will smoke them out of their holes. We will get them running, and we'll bring them to justice.
At Camp David with his national security team, President Bush has blunt words for the terrorists believed behind the attack. But who are the terrorists? Increasingly, the focus is on the Al-Qaeda network and Osama bin Laden.
There is no question he is what we would call a prime suspect. And if he thinks he can hide and run from the United States and our allies, he will be sorely mistaken.
Mr. President, do you have a message for the reservists that you called up yesterday? Can you tell us whether you think more may have to be called?
My message is for everybody who wears the uniform, get ready. The United States will do what it takes to win this war.
Just as the president was using the language of war, he was cautioning the American people that this would not be like past wars. No beaches to storm, no vast armies or navies to target, no quick victory here. His words were changing in another respect. On day one, he had referred to those behind the attacks as folks. Now he was calling them barbarians.
We need to go back to work tomorrow, and we will. But we need to be alert to the fact that that these evildoers still exist. We haven't seen this kind of barbarism in a long period of time. No one could have conceivably imagined suicide bombers burrowing into our society and then emerging all on the same day to fly their aircraft, fly U.S. aircraft, into buildings full of innocent people and show no remorse. And this is a new kind of evil.
Bush is improvising, speaking off the cuff, and he uses a word many will wish he hadn't.
This crusade, this war on terrorism, is going to take a while, and the American people must be patient.
Calling the war on terrorism a crusade was a mistake. It conjured up images of the Crusades of the 11th through 14th centuries when European Christians waged bloody war against Muslims in the Holy Land. This 21st century war was not against Muslims, the administration was quick to point out, but against terrorists and those who support them.
I'm here to remind people that the best way to fight terrorism is to not let terrorism intimidate America.
On the first Monday morning after the attack, the president greets government workers at the Executive Office building adjacent to the White House.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here.
Later, Bush is welcomed to the Pentagon. At a meeting with Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, the president talks with reporters.
This is a fight for freedom. This is a fight to say to the freedom-loving people of the world, we will not allow ourselves to be terrorized by somebody who thinks they can hit and hide in some cave somewhere.
Mr. Bin Laden dead.
I want him held. I want justice. And there's an old poster out west, as I recall, that said "Wanted, dead or alive."
The president's Wild West imagery, though welcomed by many, is also criticized later as ill-advised and inflammatory. It's later reported that even his own father called to suggest he tone down the rhetoric. There is no criticism of what Bush has to say at his next stop this day at the Islamic Center in Washington, a message to Americans and to Muslims around the world.
The face of terror is not the true faith of Islam. That's not what Islam is all about. Islam is peace. These terrorists don't represent peace. They represent evil and war.
Tuesday morning at the White House, 1 week exactly after the attack, and a moment of silence for the thousands of victims. This is the first time since the attack that the president and vice president appear together in public. Later, the president speaks in the Rose Garden.
Last week was a really horrible week for America. But out of our tears and sadness, we saw the best of America as well. We saw a great country rise up to help. The world watches the great country called America, and they say, what will they do? What will Americans do? And what they've seen the best of America. They've seen leadership, they've seen courage, and as importantly, they've seen compassion.
As the president tends to the home front, he also rallies international support, meeting that evening with President Chirac of France.
It's the first formal visit I've had with any world leader since the terrible day a week ago.
In the days that follow, the president, who came to office with little foreign policy experience, meets personally with leaders from Canada, Indonesia, Russia, Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, Japan, Jordan, Mexico, Germany, Italy, and China. And the president, who had shown little affection for official Washington, offers real support in visits to the State Department, the Labor Department, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the FBI, and the CIA. From Congress, leaders of both parties offer praise and support, and the president announces that he will address a special joint session of Congress.
I can't think of a better place than to talk about freedom and the battle to maintain freedom in one of the greatest halls of freedom, and that is in the United States Congress. So thank you for the invitation. I accept wholeheartedly, and I will see you all tomorrow night.
When we come back, the most important speech of the president's life.
How did you sleep?
Fantastic. My back and neck feel great.
And you didn't snore. What's your secret?
Introducing the Contour Secret, an amazing new discovery that will give you the best night's sleep of your life, guaranteed. Look, ordinary pillows sag, but the Contour Secret has a secret inner core that supports and aligns your spine. It never goes flat, while its outer layer is made of soft fiber, the most comfortable sleep surface in the world. Tense, achy muscles relax and rejuvenate. You'll wake up totally refreshed. In fact, this survey proves you'll sleep better and toss and turn less with the Contour Secret than any of these competitive pillows.
My husband's snoring used to keep me up all night. Now with the Contour Secret, we both get a great night's sleep.
Before, I used to wake up as tired as when I went to bed. But now with the Contour Secret, I get up refreshed, ready for the day.
Of all the pillows I've tried, Contour Secret is the only one that helps me sleep through the night and wake up without pain in the morning.
Beware, too soft causes headaches and snoring. Too firm causes tossing and turning. Only the Contour Secret combines both soft, breathable comfort with firm inner support. And now on this exclusive TV offer, it can be yours for only $19.95. We guarantee you the best night's sleep of your life or your money back. But wait, call now and get this soft quilted protective cover free. But that's not all. Call within the next 10 minutes and get the Contour Lumbar Support, a $20 value free. Look, it supports the natural curve of your spine. Aches and pains in your lower back melt away. Imagine you get the Contour Secret quilted cover and the lumbar support, a $50 value over only $19.95.
And how did you sleep?
Better than ever. No aches, no pains. I've got my own secret.
Not available in stores. Order today.
Call 1-800-393-7744 to order. That's 1-800-393-7744. One last time, that number is 1-800-393-7744.
MSNBC reports. Days of Crisis, the Commander-in-Chief. Here again is Brian Williams.
Welcome back. A president, a commander-in-chief, leads by the actions he takes, the confidence he shows, the words he chooses. It has become the task of George W. Bush to lead this nation through an unprecedented crisis, and he has been tested. It is useful to remember that FDR had been president for more than 8 years when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. On September 11th, 2001, George Bush had been president for less than 8 months. In the days immediately following, his response to this crisis evolved. His determination grew. There was much he had said already, but he knew he needed to say much more.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
An address to a joint session of Congress. The President and his staff have been working on this speech for days, crafting it, rehearsing it. The television audience is enormous, an estimated 82 million people in the United States, millions more around the world.
Tonight we are a country awakened to danger and called to defend freedom. Our grief has turned to anger, and anger to resolution. Whether we bring our enemies to justice or bring justice to our enemies, justice will be done.
And who is the enemy? The president identifies the al-Qaeda terrorist network led by Osama bin Laden, supported by the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. The president demands of the Taliban turn over the leaders of al-Qaeda, shut down its terrorist network, allow inspection of its camps.
These demands are not open to negotiation or discussion. The Taliban must act and act immediately. They will hand over the terrorists, or they will share in their fate. Our war on terror begins with al-Qaeda, but it does not end there. It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated. They stand against us because we stand in their way. We're not deceived by their pretenses to piety. We have seen their kind before. They are the heirs of all the murderous ideologies of the 20th century. By sacrificing human life to serve their radical visions, by abandoning every value except the will to power, they follow in the path of fascism, Nazism, and totalitarianism. And they will follow that path all the way to where it ends, in history's unmarked grave of discarded lies. Every nation in every region now has a decision to make. Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists. Great harm has been done to us. We have suffered great loss. And in our grief and anger, we have found our mission and our moment. Freedom and fear are at war. The advance of human freedom, the great achievement of our time and the great hope of every time, now depends on us. Our nation, this generation, will lift a dark thread of violence from our people and our future. We will rally the world to this cause by our efforts, by our courage. We will not tire, we will not falter, and we will not fail. Each of us will remember what happened that day and to whom it happened. We'll remember the moment the news came, where we were and what we were doing. Some will remember an image of a fire or a story of rescue. Some will carry memories of a face and a voice gone forever. And I will carry this. It is the police shield of a man named George Howard, who died at the World Trade Center trying to save others. It was given to me by his mom, Arlene, as a proud memorial to her son. It is my reminder of lives that ended and a task that does not end. I will not forget the wound to our country and those who inflicted it. I will not yield. I will not rest. I will not relent in waging this struggle for freedom and security for the American people. The course of this conflict is not known, yet its outcome is certain. Freedom and fear, justice and cruelty have always been at war, and we know that God is not neutral between them. In all that lies before us, may God grant us wisdom, and may He watch over the United States of America. Thank you.
In our grief and anger, we have found our mission and our moment. The president was talking about the nation and about himself. The terrorist attack the week before had transformed the country. And with this speech, George W. Bush defined his presidency just as events at first had defined it for him. And where was the president's mother on this important night for her son, keeping a speaking engagement of her own in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania?
I got to hurry tonight because you have a better speaker coming up.
When we come back, Barbara Bush, wife Laura, brother Jeb, and the president's father in just a moment.
He's facing a test that few presidents have faced.
Tonight on Business Center, as major airlines struggle to fill seats and stay in business, see how some regional carriers are making money whether or not their planes are full. Plus, the latest from Wall Street, Washington, and the world. Tonight on CNBC Business Center at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Want to rearrange the living room? Dust behind that chest? How about move that king-size bed? Better get some moving men. No, not those moving men. These moving men. Introducing the moving men. The furniture sliders that make moving even the largest furniture child's play. Just slip a moving man under each leg, and even the heaviest piece slides along effortlessly. Each moving man is made of a highly polished polymer and fitted with a special grip pad for the legs to rest on. Even this loaded bookcase practically floats along. These men can hardly budge this armoire, yet this 90-pound woman can slide it clear across the room. We placed this wooden freight skid on 4 moving men with these heavy cinder blocks. It slides along like magic. This couple rearranged their living room in just a few minutes. They even used it to move that big screen TV. And now you don't have to bother your friends just to clean behind the bed. Sliding furniture without the moving men can bunch up and even damage expensive carpeting. The moving men are guaranteed. If they're not the best helpers you've ever had, send them back for a full refund. You get a set of 4 moving men for just $19.99. And if you call right now, we'll double your order. That's 8 moving men for less than $10 a set. But that's not all. We'll also include 8 mini movers. Put them under the washer and dryer, or anything you frequently move for cleaning. Watch, here's one more incredible demo. It could take you hours to move your entertainment system. But why take it apart when you can move it all at once? Order now and get it all. That's 8 jumbo moving men and the 8 mini movers for just $19.99. So stop straining your back and let the moving men professionally move that heavy furniture. Call now.
To order the amazing moving men for only $19.99 plus shipping, have your credit card ready and call 1-800-454-8484 or send check or money order to the address on your screen. Call now.
Hi, interested in earning free airline miles?
Sure.
Think you don't fly enough to earn them?
Yes.
Think miles are good on only one airline?
Yes.
Think again. Every day more people are flying to more places free. How?
It's easy. With the Citibank Advantage World MasterCard.
Call now and you could get 1 mile for every dollar you spend. And use your miles on over 20 top airlines. And now your miles never expire when you make a purchase with your card once every 3 years. Plus, we'll give you 8,000 bonus miles. Sound good?
Yes.
You'll earn miles on everyday purchases. And with no preset spending limit, you'll have the spending power you want. Call now and get 8,000 bonus miles. And before you know it, you could fly on over 20 top airlines, drive with every major car rental company, and stay at the finest hotels free. All with the miles that take you further. From Citibank Advantage World MasterCard. Perfect. Call about getting your Citibank Advantage World MasterCard and 8,000 bonus miles.
Tuesday on MSNBC. On America's most tragic day, ordinary men and women became working-class heroes. A new Headliners and Legends, Tuesday at 10 on MSNBC.
You know, it's really impossible to describe what it feels like to have one of your children become a president. That's especially true now. As a mother, I would give anything not to see him have to deal with this terrible time in our history. As an American, I could not be happier to have this very able, wise man in the White House surrounded by a great team.
And George Bush may be surrounded by a great team in the White House, but he would insist his most important team is his family, starting with his wife. Laura Bush is not fond of the limelight, but in the days after September 11th, she made a series of public appearances, among them a memorial service for the victims of United Airlines Flight 93 in Pennsylvania.
A poet wrote, "Love knows not its own depths until the hour of parting." The loved ones we remember today knew, even in those horrible moments, that they were not truly alone because your love was with them. And I want each of you today to know that you are not alone. We cannot ease the pain, but this country stands by you.
Laura Bush herself was potentially in harm's way on the morning of September 11th. She was on Capitol Hill meeting with senators and preparing to speak on education until word of the attacks spread.
I was taken to a secure location, and like every parent, I called my children immediately as soon as I could get them to reassure them. And then I called my own mother for the comfort of her voice. I know that people all over the country call their loved ones to reassure them and to send their love to them, and I did that. So I really was never really fearful.
The president's brother, Jeb Bush.
I was afraid for all my family's safety. Clearly, you know, my mom and dad, and obviously my brother and my sister-in-law all are primary targets, but cousins and nephews and my children and my wife, all of them were on my mind.
A president in wartime needs people around him he trusts, people who can give him the best possible counsel. George W. Bush could do no better than to turn to a man who has been there himself, his own father. Tom Brokaw talked to former President Bush shortly after the attacks and asked him how much advice he'd been giving his son.
It's hard for people to understand this. I'm not hovering over the shoulders with advice. I don't have the information to give sound advice anymore. I don't have access to the intelligence that Secretary Powell does, or Vice President Cheney, or Secretary Rumsfeld, or Condi Rice, or the President have. And I learned long ago you ought not to be giving a lot of opinions unless you know what the hell you're talking about.
But the role of just being a dad is also important in a time
that
like
role I can do, and Barbara can do it well as a mother. We talk to them a lot. And again, it's family, and it's concern of parents, in this instance, for the President of the United States of America. It's hard to describe, Tom. It's not Republican or Democrat. It's not liberal or conservative with us. It's simply a great pride in the President and in the First Lady. And this thing about faith, I mean, this is real for him. This is real. Here's a man that's read the Bible through twice, and it's not to make it holier than thou, or not to make a political point. It's something that is in his heart, and we see it all the time. And yet his mother can still talk to him. George, take your feet off that couch. This summer, I said, Mom, he's President of the United States of America. You're telling him to take his feet off? I'm going running, Mother. I don't care. Take those running shoes off my table. I mean, life goes on, and it's family, and it's important.
We were all so touched when, after he finished that memorable speech at the memorial service and sat down next to you, you reached over and put your hand on him in the most reassuring and affectionate way. What did you and Mrs. Bush say to each other after you saw the speech that many people say is one of the very best speeches that has been given in recent memory to Congress and to the nation?
Oh, well, I'm 77, so I'm entitled to shed a few tears. And I got quite emotional at a couple of points. I didn't want to kind of lose it there, but you just have this overwhelming pride in recognizing at the same time, because I have been president, the enormous problems that any president, but in this case, because it's our son, faces. This is a huge challenge for the president and for this experienced team he has around him. What I don't agree with is that suddenly this person has found strength. Suddenly this person can lead. He's facing a test that few presidents have faced. But he was a leader. He was a leader in our state for 8 years or 6, whatever it was, as governor of our great state, the second biggest state in the nation. So he's been tested, but never like he's being tested now.
We're going into a very critical period. What is the most important thing this country should know about its president and what's ahead?
Is that he's determined, that he is resolute, that he is blessed with a superb, experienced team, and that there is no way to overestimate the importance of that, given the complexity of the problems he faces, and that he'll stay the course, and he'll do it with honor.
I run 100-mile marathons.
I wasn't always in this shape. After my son was born, I needed to lose weight. I lost 44 pounds on the Slim Fast plan.
That was 9 years ago.
And I've used Slim Fast ever since. I drink it every day.
I love it. I started training
and kept Slim Fast as part of my healthy diet. Food is fuel for me.
Slim Fast is balanced.
It has the vitamins I need, the nutrients, and calcium
for my bones.
Slim Fast helps keep me in top form.
Slim Fast every day. Get healthy.
Missed bills, forgotten dates. What a mess. What you need is a personal secretary. The solid wood organizer that will keep everything neat. But most important, it lets you know exactly when to pay bills, mail greeting cards, and remember important dates. Each day of the month has its very own slot. When your bills arrive, simply slip them into the appropriate day. Do the same with greeting cards, payment books, invitation replies, airline and theater tickets, and reminders. It's simple and it works.
Mommy, Grandma and Grandpa remembered my birthday.
And that's not all they're remembering. Finally, no more missed payments and forgotten dates. The personal secretary is made of real wood and has a rich natural finish that will complement any decor. The slots are fully adjustable to accommodate those really busy days. Unlike conventional file cabinets, your personal secretary will have everything ready for you. The personal secretary features a built-in felt-lined drawer to keep your pen collection safe and always at your fingertips. There are also compartments for stamps, address labels, and more. Use it anywhere in the house. Pay your bills while sitting in your favorite chair, watching TV, working on the dining room table, or even take it outdoors. Your home will stay neater, plus having everything right where you need it will save you both time and money. Now have the peace of mind to know all your payments are on time and you haven't forgotten any important dates. Similar organizers sell in catalogs for up to $120. The Real Wood Personal Secretary is just $19.95. And if you call right now, we'll include the Jumbo Magnifier, a $10 value absolutely free. No more struggling to read tiny account numbers or prescription labels. This powerful magnifier even has a 4-time insert to read especially small type. You get both, the Solid Wood Personal Secretary and the free Jumbo Magnifier for just $19.95. Call now.
Order your personal secretary now for the incredibly low price of just $19.95 plus $6.95 shipping. Call toll-free 1-800-490-2323 or send check or money order to the address on your screen.
It's often said that in the final analysis, about 90% of being the President of the United States is dealing with the unexpected, not with issues that came up in the campaign.
Moderator Jim Lehrer at the first presidential debate, October 3rd, 2000, asking the candidates about their ability to deal with the unexpected, how they would handle a crisis. Al Gore gives a rambling answer about Kosovo and health care. Then it's George W. Bush's turn.
Well, I've been standing up to big Hollywood, big trial lawyers. What was the question? It was about emergencies, wasn't it?
Well, it was about, well, yeah, okay.
You know, as governor, one of the things you have to deal with is catastrophe. It's time to test your mettle. It's the time to test your heart when you see people whose lives have been turned upside down. That's what governors do. Governors are oftentimes found on the front line of catastrophic situations.
As president, George W. Bush was at first spared from having to be on the front line of catastrophic situations. Then came September 11th, 2001, and a catastrophe like no other in American history. 1 year and 4 days after that debate, President Bush took action as commander-in-chief.
On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes against al-Qaeda terrorist training camps and military installations of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. The battle is now joined on many fronts. We will not waver. We will not tire, we will not falter, and we will not fail.
George W. Bush was elected president with less than half the popular vote. The country was divided. But September 11th, 2001 changed everything. The president began this country's war on terrorism with the overwhelming support of the American people, and he would need it. I'm Brian Williams. We'll leave you with this: a presidential visit to Chicago 2 weeks after the attack, and a stop at a neighborhood restaurant. The lunchtime crowd spontaneously seems to sum up how all of America feels.
God bless America, my home sweet home.
Hello, I'm Jeannie Ohm with continuing coverage of America Strikes Back on MSNBC. Here are the top stories. The Associated Press is reporting that 2 French journalists were killed in a Taliban ambush in Afghanistan. A third foreign journalist is missing and presumed dead. The journalist reportedly fell from a Northern Alliance armored personnel carrier after it came under fire. Afghan opposition forces, though, say they've got the Taliban on the run. They now claim to have seized control of half of Afghanistan. The Northern Alliance foreign minister says the rebels are now approaching the capital city of Kabul. President Bush, meanwhile, is urging the rebels to hold off taking Kabul until a coalition government can be formed. To mark the 2-month anniversary of the September 11th attacks, the president attended a Ground Zero ceremony to honor the dead. The names of 86 countries that lost citizens were read aloud at the service. Mr. Bush started the morning at a Veterans Day breakfast, where he again vowed victory in the war on terrorism. But Osama bin Laden says he won't be captured alive. In an interview with a Pakistani newspaper, bin Laden also claimed having nothing to do with the anthrax attacks. Investigators, meanwhile, have found more trace amounts of anthrax in the Hart Senate office building. An anthrax-tainted letter was originally sent to Majority Leader Tom Daschle. 5 other senators' offices have now tested positive. The building had already been shut down for cleaning. Those are the headlines. Stay with MSNBC for the latest developments. I'm Jeannie Ohm.
This is a nation of heroes, and we, in our sorrow, can think of them with great pride.
In a nation of heroes, here's one we've long looked up to: John McCain. In Vietnam, he cheated death time and again, survived an inferno.
Planes are exploding, rockets are exploding.
Survived being shot down.
And broke my leg and both arms.
Survived being a POW.
I don't care what they're doing to him. He's not dead.
In this hour, the life of a man who really knows what it means to be a hero. The journey of John McCain.
Projects, and it's a good thing to do.
Will they ever get any of Bill Gates' billions from winning this challenge?
Sure, they get 50,000 plus a car, but actually it brings me to a useful point, which is Microsoft has made this incredible online research material set of things. I see in the New York Times every day a list of the people who were killed, about 10 or 12 of them, at the World Trade Center, very brief bios of them. It never fails to make me cry. I'd like to see an online site about that, all the people who were killed. I see Osama bin Laden says, we weren't attacking individuals, we were attacking the icons of American capitalist imperialist power. Well, maybe so, but they killed 5,000 innocent men, women, and children. I think we could do a huge service for this country and the world by having a site where people all over the world could go and see little bios of all the innocent people killed in this terrorist attack, see that it wasn't an attack on B-52s or Marines or Special Forces, but on women, children, and innocent men. And that would be a huge contribution that Hollywood could make, along with some giant web company.
Yeah, both of you have been in meetings, either with the White House or with film executives. Ron Silver, what does the White House want from Hollywood right now?
I think what they would like is just to share some ideas, and when there's a community of interests, we'll get together. I mean,
what does that mean?
Well, there's a parallel battle going on now beyond.
I have been laughing this morning.
I know that.
I wondered what it meant
I was actually going to try to explain myself now. There's a battle for world opinion going on that's not equally important as the military campaign, but it's very important to weave the actions of millions of Americans in pursuit of a larger national goal. And this world opinion is very, very important domestically to sustain our effort with a coherent, consistent message, and also in foreign, ways to get our message out.
So do you do that in a film? Do you do that in PSAs?
Not only a
How
film.
do you do
Look,
it?
your company is part of a tremendous global outreach in terms of entertainment, online, information, providing news. It's information. There's tremendous hardware that the entertainment industries have. In some ways, more than the government. News Corp has EchoStar and satellites that broadcast and have footprints in areas of the world that the government does not. The government is functioning on VOA with a weak AM signal out of Cyprus. We're not reaching a lot of the populations in the world that we need to reach.
I see you nodding in agreement. This is a rare thing when you get the two of you
We're
sitting next to
brothers
each other.
We're brothers now in this struggle.
I know you're quite collegial.
But this, look, we have, as he said, a huge world out there to reach, and it's possible for Hollywood, along with people like CNN, to reach the world and say, this is what America's like. America's not a land of billionaires and on the one hand and homeless on the other and nobody else. America's a land of very wonderful, kind-hearted, generous, open-spirited people. America is a land of people who help everyone, including Muslims, everyone in the world who stretches out his hand. America will answer with help. Let's have some stories about how good America is to the rest of the world and to the people here. I keep thinking to myself, stories like Why We Fight. You know, Frank Capra made this great series in World War II called Why We Fight, about how great America was and why we were pushed into the war. A series beamed to the whole rest of the world about what daily life in America is like and why we have to protect that way of life.
If I may, it's not simply the content. Telling people that we're wonderful people and we believe in this and that, it has to be consistent with our policies, because a lot of people in the world see our policies as not consistent with our rhetoric, that our policies seem to undermine what we say we're about and what we want for them. So it's a very complicated business that's going to take a long-term commitment.
Right, but I'm still not clear on exactly what is expected of you all. We're going to show some pictures now of those very effective posters that were created during World War II. Is anybody from the White House
a lot of
asking
things
either
that
one
can
of
be
you to sign on?
Well, there can be PSAs done. Pop culture can reinforce sacrifice on the home front about what people do in World War II. It was very effective.
Comedy series on TV, Ron Silver?
I don't know about that.
But look, there doesn't need to be that much sacrifice. I mean, the cost of this war economically at this point is very, very low. So what really needs to have, what Hollywood can really do is show the rest of the world what America is. America is not what bin Laden says it is. America is not what the Hamas or the Hezbollah says it is. America is a place that is a generous, charitable, kind-hearted people wanting justice for everyone who has a legitimate cause. And Hollywood can show that by showing the kind of people Americans are. Americans are an extremely good people. They are the kindest people that God ever made. We can show that to the rest of the world. It helps our cause.
But look at where we go to see the movie theaters every week, and that's where I'm not clear on where you guys are taking this. Because those kind of feel-good movies in the past haven't performed well. You're not just talking about PSAs, you're talking about...
I'm not just talking about that, but what I am talking about is that we have to be very clear on what the objective is. Is it to sell America and what kind of people we are and what we're about and what we want for everyone? Or is it to foster some sort of mutual dialogue and respect? They're not mutually exclusive, but they are very different. Because quite often we will see a kid wearing a Madonna t-shirt with designer jeans, a Yankee baseball cap, and he's drinking a Diet Pepsi, and he's throwing a bomb at us. So, I mean, selling products is one thing. Selling ideas or fostering a dialogue is something else. And I think people in our industry can be influential as contributing to that and players in getting out that story and fostering that dialogue.
But I don't
think we need to sell any products. We're already selling plenty of products. We need to sell what America is. America is the greatest creation of man's mind and heart that there's ever been. We need to show that to the rest of the world, that the ordinary American is a very wonderful person. Don't kill us.
Well, I have faith that the two of you can try to further sell these images that I think really are a part of the fabric of our society. I salute the two of you, wish you luck. Love to have you come back by when you have more meetings with the White House so we can better understand where this campaign's going.
We're at your disposal.
Good luck with your new project.
Thank you.
You working on a movie now? New one yet?
I'm
in between
involved
projects?
with all this stuff right now. This is too important.
Well, that's the most important place to be. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
The two of you. Still to come. On the number 6 train with Kathy Nguyen, could her last rides lead to some new clues? And to vaccinate against smallpox or not to vaccinate, that is a critical question. A debate coming up.
There's a time when this thing was sweet. I'm not sure when exactly. But now this relic is, shall we say, past its prime, sort of like your old computer. Right now, you can upgrade to America's favorite PC, a complete Dell system with an Intel Pentium 4 processor for just $8.99. Dig it. Oh, you're the more mobile type, not a couch potato? You can get a Dell notebook with the Intel Pentium 3 processor for $11.49. Check this out. Right now, both come with a free printer. Getting a Dell is so easy. All you gotta do is call or go online, and the Dell folks will help you build the computer that's right for you. Yup, a Dell desktop for $8.99 or a notebook for $11.49. Well, don't just sit there. At these prices, you can get a Dell with what you find right here. Dude, you're getting a Dell. Easy to buy, easy to own, easy as Dell.
Get the news and latest developments from Washington, D.C. with John King. Another reason why you can depend on CNN.
Gather round with the family there. Gonna eat my share. It's a fine day.
Now Dodge is giving you something special to take home for the holidays. The security of 7-year or 100,000-mile powertrain protection on any new Dodge vehicle. Plus, through November 19th, 0% APR on select 2002 models.
It's good to see you, Dad.
No thanks. It gives me gas.
Put the turkey on a plate.
For 90 years, we've kept Americans moving. And there's no reason to stop now. Chevrolet. Right now, get 0% financing on every new car we build. That could save you thousands of dollars in finance savings, like over $2,100 in average finance savings on Chevy Impala. And you can own one interest-free. Keep America rolling. See your local Chevy dealer today.
This is CNN.
Back at 20 minutes after the hour, the death of Kathy Nguyen continues to baffle investigators. The New York hospital worker died from inhalation anthrax on October 31st. After an autopsy, her death was ruled a homicide. But detectives still have no clues now, or they aren't sure exactly where she came into contact with the germ. Medical correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta brings us up to date on the investigation. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning, Paula. Yeah, it was exactly as you said. Thousands of nasal swabs, just about every bacterial surface she may have come in contact with has been tested. For a relatively private woman who visited few places, it's been a formidable challenge investigatively. First, they thought it was the mail, Paula. They checked the mail at her home, at her work, the places that serviced both her home and her work, and found nothing. Then they started to sort of follow the woman herself. They looked at her Metro card and sort of followed her travels along the number 6 train from the Bronx, the Whitlock station where she lived, to the 68th and 86th stations in Manhattan. One place was where she worked at the Manhattan Eye, Ear, and Nose Institute, but also a place that she frequently visited was an Asian restaurant at the 86th stop. They really have still not found anything at either one of these places. So it has been a very formidable challenge. One caveat to all that is that everyone who has possibly come in contact with Kathy Nguyen has already been started on Cipro. So certainly that stopped the infections, but also may have stopped any clues that may have helped investigators, Paula.
So, doctor, I'm sorry, someone was talking to me as you finished there. Can you describe to us this morning what the CDC has actually learned in trying to piece together all this information from so many different sources?
Right, Paula. Well, you know, they have learned a lot, actually. You know, we hadn't seen a case of inhalational anthrax in 25 years in this country, and now 10 cases. A couple of things that they have learned. It does tend to be a 2-phase sort of illness. First, the first phase, usually days 1 to 4, you have symptoms such as fatigue, fever, myalgia, which is muscle pain, and a non-productive cough. Days 5 to 6, which is the second phase, usually you're going to get respiratory distress, cyanosis, meaning not enough oxygen, and profound sweating. Death, if it occurs, usually occurs on day 7. We have learned that people who were treated in the first phase, all 6 of the people who survived were treated with appropriate antibiotics during that first phase. All 4 people who died did not receive antibiotics until the second phase, so a very important distinction there. all of them had abnormal chest x-rays. Some of those abnormalities were not recognized at the time, but certainly in retrospect, when they went back and looked at the x-rays, every one of the 10 people have had an abnormal chest x-ray. So there have been some important things. I've talked to several doctors about that. They say that it probably means that a lot more people will get antibiotics, especially this flu season, as the phase 1 symptoms are so similar to the flu. Paula.
Now, I know my own personal doctor recommended to not get a flu shot because it perhaps could mask, you know, the symptoms of exposure to anthrax. But in general, that's not a good idea. The elderly part of the population should continue to get flu shots now, right, as they always have?
That's right, Paul. They talk about people at high risk certainly being the first to get the flu shots. That is healthcare workers, that is people who have weak immune systems, and people who work in hospitals. But if there is enough flu vaccine available, which people are working very hard to do, folks are recommending that if you can get a flu shot, go ahead and get it, no matter who you are.
All right, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, we always rely on your advice. Appreciate it. We're going to take a short break here, and on the other side, take a look at the potential of an outbreak of smallpox. A Russian scientist last week warned that some underpaid Russian researchers may be ready to sell samples of smallpox. We will talk about that with a man who helped eradicate smallpox in India. We'll be right back.
So the bun cake was bad. The bun cake was abysmal, but you're missing the point of the story. The entire staff has food poisoning, leaving packages to be shipped, deadlines to be met, and one sales manager to do it all. Just one? One. You didn't have the bun cake. He had the Danish. Stay with me. He jumps on FedEx.com. He's shipping, he's tracking, getting confirmations on his cell phone, his pagers, PDA. He's got a PDA? Everybody's got a PDA. Nevertheless, packages arrive, he triumphs over adversity. I don't have PDA. Check, please.
The joy you find in life, the way you feel inside, comes in mouthfuls and handfuls, foods that make you smile.
Believe it, lower in fat, and yeah, meatless. Food that really fits your life. That's Boca.
Boca me, bring it on. Boca me, let it go. Boca me, feed your soul. Boca me, bring it on.
This is the hardest thing I've ever done. I mean, these people were like family to me. Remember I met Jeannie at the company picnic?
That was the best thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah, taking the new job was a tough decision. Deciding what to do with my 401k money was another. I didn't want to mess it up. I called T. Rowe Price. You know, you told me about the mutual funds.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, they sent me a rollover kit, you know. Took me through it step by step.
Well, made it easy for you.
Yeah, piece of cake.
Call the rollover specialists at T. Rowe Price.
It's going to be a good job.
Yeah.
Anthrax outbreaking has been frightening enough, but health professionals who have looked at the issue say a smallpox outbreak could be far more devastating. Dr. Lawrence Brilliant is one of the few people in the world who has seen the disease up close. He joins us from San Francisco this morning. I might add, very early on in the morning there. We really appreciate you getting up for us. Thank you very much for joining us. Good morning. Before we sort of retrace some of your steps in India, I wanted to quickly ask you what your current concern is about a potential outbreak of smallpox here, potentially by a fanatic who comes into the country infected.
Well, smallpox is one of the worst diseases, of course, in human history. It's a devastating disease. Even though I think it's an extremely low probability that a terrorist would reintroduce smallpox into the United States, it's such a bad disease that we have to act as if it were a high probability and take the steps that are necessary to protect ourselves.
Take us back to 1975, if you would. We have a picture of a woman named Rahama Banu of Bangladesh. What is the significance of that case?
Well, she was the last case of variola major, of Asian or killer smallpox, that ever occurred in a long, unbroken chain of transmission of that disease, lasting at least back to the pharaohs of Egypt and probably even earlier than that. When she had her case of smallpox and no one else got it from her, that was the end of smallpox in the wild, so to speak. She's a remarkable historical person.
And we have pictures of you. You had multiple tours of duty in India, but describe to us how you got involved with smallpox vaccinations.
Well, I was already living in India when the smallpox program began, and I was recruited by the World Health Organization. And WHO launched the largest United Nations program in history. We had 150,000 workers, 530 doctors from 35 countries, and we literally visited every house in India every month. And I laughingly say we made 2 billion house calls, but that at least gives you some feeling for the size of the operation.
And in spite of the effectiveness of the vaccine, would you have any concerns about Americans going back to a smallpox vaccination program?
I would. Of course, if there were a real and present danger of smallpox today, we should be isolating every case, vaccinating around every case, quarantining the area, tracing contacts backwards and forwards, and doing exactly what we did in the surveillance and containment phase of the program all over the world. But in the absence of smallpox, mass vaccination carries tremendous risks that are not necessary today. If we vaccinated nearly 300 million people, it is likely that 500 to 1,000 would die from side effects from the vaccine, and that doesn't include other non-fatal complications of the vaccine. So the choice before us is a low probability of a terrible disease or a high probability of an unwarranted number of deaths from side effects from the vaccine. I think CDC is doing exactly the right thing now, training teams who can respond immediately to look at all rashes with fever, to make differential diagnoses, and to be prepared to act in the event it's warranted.
As you know, and I made reference to this report a little earlier on this morning, there were some Russian scientists who were interviewed, and they talked about their concerns that some of the underpaid Russian scientists might sell some of their most important information to rogue nations when it comes to the smallpox vaccine. I know you said the likelihood of that happening at the top was remote, but nevertheless something that you think the country should prepare for?
Well, first of all, I think we should just take a pause and think about that place in Russia was called Vector. I mean, it's almost like a James Bond movie, and it makes you reach deep inside to think of the horror of someone who would deliberately unleash this disease on human beings. But there's still so many steps beyond just having the virus to be able to make it into a weapon and to bring it into the United States. And I think that the odds that that would happen are sufficiently low enough that on the other side, the risks of unnecessary deaths from the vaccine today outweighs that. This is obviously something that's happening in real time. It's changing every minute. As new information comes, those odds, those risk ratios will change.
Well, we appreciate your perspective this morning, and I must say you certainly lived up to your last name this morning, Dr. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Was that hard as a kid to have that last name?
About 50% of the time it was terrible.
Very honest answer, Dr. Brilliant. Good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Still to come, does private airport security lead to airport insecurity? We're going to put that question to the new head of the embattled security firm, Argenbright. And in our next hour, we're going to be talking to the former Queen of Jordan, who's working hard to plant the seeds of peace during this time of war.
I love to keep a clean club, but the boys get so rambunctious sometimes. Nice catch! Hence, my new Bissell Pro Heat Protect Beauty. It's the only one that thoroughly cleans and provides scratch guard protection all in one beautiful machine. Smoothies! Scotch guard protection. It's cool.
Now clean and protect with Bissell.
It'll put any neatnik in hog heaven.
Bissell, we mean clean.
You go first. I think we should. Being first is never easy. Will I make it? Will I be laughed at? Will it be worth it?
And welcome back. Good to have you with us this morning on this Monday, November 12th. Now, some of the latest headlines from Bill Hemmer, who is on War Alert in Atlanta.
Paula, good morning once again. The troops are said to be on the move, and CNN has been told the order has gone out to Northern Alliance forces that it's time to begin the push toward Kabul. That's according to Northern Alliance sources there. Hundreds of rebel troops are said to be on the move in this fast-developing story in Afghanistan. Opposition forces have made dramatic gains in recent days. Going back to Friday of last week, the Northern Alliance claims to have captured Herat in the west as of today and Mazar Sharif, as you heard, over this past weekend. Opposition sources telling CNN a Taliban ambush also left 3 journalists dead. French media identifying 2 of them as Johan Souton and Pierre Billot. The third journalist, a German, has not been ID'd just yet. All were riding in a Northern Alliance convoy at the time of that ambush. New estimates this morning on the financial cost of the war in Afghanistan. A report in the New York Times saying the U.S. government expects to spend about $1 billion a month. That figure expected to rise as additional U.S. forces are deployed in the region. Much more coming up in a half hour. Have a look on the ground and by way of maps in Afghanistan to try and figure out what is happening there based on the correspondence and the reports we're getting back here in the U.S. For now, back to Paula. More in New York. Paula.
Thanks, Bill. There is late word this morning that a Pakistani scientist has been secretly traveling into neighboring Afghanistan. Our Tom Mantier joins us now from Islamabad to try to describe to us why he's making these trips. Good morning, Tom. Evening there.
Good morning, Paula. There were more than 4 trips by 2 scientists between the year 2000 and 2001. Pakistani sources tell CNN that U.S. officials have been interviewing these 2 nuclear scientists repeatedly over the 8 days that they were held in detention. Now, these interview sessions lasted for 6 to 8 hours. Sultan Bashiruddin Mahmoud and Abdul Majid. We do have books that were written by Mr. Mahmoud, Cosmology and Human Destiny, Our Journey Through Time and Space, Doomsday and Life After Death. We also have a picture of the scientist from his book, and also we have some pictures of his house. Now, when we tried to approach the house today, somebody from the Intelligence Bureau came out and said that he was not accepting any visitors. No one was allowed to see him. No one was allowed to meet with him. Now, what the American investigators want to know from this nuclear scientist is why indeed he went into Afghanistan for 4 different times over a period of 2 years, staying about 2 weeks. He claims that he was working on a hydroelectric project there. He also met with Mullah Kabir, who is a high-ranking Taliban official. They also, in their questioning, wanted to know about the contacts with the Taliban and questions about whether they indeed made contacts with Osama bin Laden. So these 2 nuclear scientists who have been much in the news in the last 2 weeks here have indeed been interviewed by U.S. officials, according to Pakistani sources. These interviews lasting 6 to 8 hours for a period of 8 days, and there is still a lot of security around their house even today. I'm Tom Mantier, CNN reporting live from Islamabad.
And Tom, what you have learned comes on the heels of a front-page story in USA Today saying that 10 of Pakistan's top nuclear scientists were approached by either the Taliban or members of the Al-Qaeda movement to discuss the potential of creating a nuclear weapons program in Afghanistan. Is it your understanding that the 2 scientists you're talking about may have been a part of this group of 10 that's being referred to in this article?
It's quite possibly that they are a part of the 10. Now, one of these scientists, who was the leading scientist on the project of the development of nuclear weapons, resigned from the commission basically because the previous government of Nawaz Sharif was going to sign the nuclear test ban treaty. He said that no one would be safe if Pakistan signed that treaty, and he basically tendered his resignation. That's when he went into the humanitarian business, setting up a couple of flour mills inside Afghanistan and also working on this hydro project. So he is one of the key players that investigators indeed detained and interviewed repeatedly over the last 2 weeks.
Tom Mantier, thanks so much for that update. We appreciate it. Now it is time to move on to one of my favorite parts of the morning, and that is about 20 minutes before the hour. Most days, before 9 o'clock, we check in with Jack Cafferty, who drops along for his daily segment called Here's What I Don't Get. Good morning. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was quiet, pleasantly quiet.
Good.
But it was fine.
We were relieved to have weekends like this. Slept.
Yeah. You slept?
Those are good weekends when you
these hours
kind of go.
What time do you get up to come in here?
Varies between 3:30, 4.
Yeah.
Are you're up earlier than that?
It's a great time of night, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on. A lot of activity out there, 57th and 10th.
So what we learned over the weekend is the new meaning of the word gesture. Gesture now means $1 billion. because the Pakistani president, Pervez Musharraf, came to Washington last Friday looking for a gesture from the United States. And President Bush gave him $1 billion.
That's a pretty friendly gesture, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Next time, come to New York, Mr. President. We got a different definition up here. We'll show you. In the meantime,
can you share that with us, Jack?
No.
You don't want to go there.
In the meantime, while he was out of town, some of the intellectual elite in Pakistan got together for this Mensa meeting that's on your screen. This was a general strike called by people who think we're terrorists. How can you have credibility when you can't spell terrorist? And they can't spell Israel, and they've been whining about Israel for a couple of hundred years.
Well, they got India right, Jack.
Well, it's only
America.
It's only a 5-letter word.
Yeah, all right.
Anyway, and of course the New York Times prints this picture, leading me to wonder if they noticed.
Well, there was, I wondered that when I saw the paper.
There was no mention of the misspelling in the cut line.
Not at all.
Right? Maybe they think that's how you spell it over there at the Gray Lady.
Well, I'm sure they're watching you this morning and they'll say, oops.
Yeah.
Maybe we should make reference to that after all, Jack.
Meantime, if you're on duty over there in Afghanistan and after long days, working on one of those air crews or whatever, and your commander tells you you're going to get a little break, and the USO is bringing a show to entertain you, this is what you're likely to see.
Everywhere around the world.
That's Wayne Newton.
Yeah.
Which could cause defections from the U.S. military. We could have soldiers and sailors going over to the other side.
Oh, come on, Jack.
Bill Geist wrote a piece in the Times over the weekend likening sending Wayne Newton to entertain the troops as using mustard gas.
Oh, that is so mean.
It's terrible.
I like Wayne Newton. Do you have a problem with, he's a nice guy. He's committed to what he's doing.
He's older than I am. They want to see Britney Spears. They want to see Jennifer Lopez. They don't want to see old guys like me. And Bob Hope used to go over there. He told jokes about the armed forces, and he told jokes about the government, and he took ladies with him, women, like Anne Margaret and Marilyn Monroe and the Playboy Bunnies, and Wayne Newton, it just...
Well, maybe when the troops come home, we'll ask them if he had any allure. He's a nice voice.
Finally, things at Mount Vernon, George Washington State, are tough. After the terrorist attacks on America September 11th, tourism has fallen off. So they are going to do this. Those are George's wooden teeth. and apparently...
What are they going to do with them?
Boy, the bottoms are not in very good shape. I wonder what he used to eat. Apparently, in an effort to boost tourism, only until February 2002 will these teeth be on display at Mount Vernon. So make your plans now, boys and girls.
And that's such a pleasant time of the year to travel
to
the
pack up the family
capital.
flivver in February and go down to Mount Vernon to look at Washington's wooden teeth. The question is, if they put them in a jar, would they float? Because they're wooden. And the director of the Mount Vernon Museums, James Reese, says, "We never felt this was appropriate, but when things get tough, you have to break a few rules. I don't think he'd really want us to do this, but we're going to do it anyway."
So the question I have, where do these teeth usually hang out? Do we know?
Probably keep them in a jar somewhere.
But you know what? Can I tell you? I saw the picture of those teeth on Friday, and it's something. My kids want to go to Mount Vernon now.
To see the teeth?
So yeah, absolutely. It seems
Don't they
so
have like
odd.
a grandparent that has some they could show them?
We'd rather travel to Washington, D.C. then. I would never admit on national television whether my mother's teeth are real or not,
Like
Jack.
going to Wally World.
Yeah, exactly.
See you later.
Take care.
Okay.
I get it all now. We're going to take a short break here. We'll see you in about a minute or two. Queen Noor coming up at the top of our next hour.
Turn to CNN Headline News to keep an eye on the future with updates on America's new war, while you focus on today with the latest in business, technology, weather, and sports. CNN Headline News. News 24/7.
He's an American icon, an unforgettable candidate for president, and the subject of a new book showcasing his heroic military career. A revealing interview with George McGovern on Newsnight with Aaron Brown. At 10 Eastern, you can depend on CNN tonight.
Closed captioning provided by U.S. Search. Know who you're hiring with background checks and employment screening from U.S. Search. Visit us at corporate.ussearch.com or call 1-800-US-SEARCH.
A respected newsman with a different way of looking at the story. Aaron Brown. Another reason why you can depend on CNN.
Begin with a question.
What is Tai Chi?
Explore the possibilities. Create a sensation.
And there you are, and here I am.
Every day, find the information and encouragement you need with someone who spent a lifetime asking all the right questions. Join us for Seeking Solutions with Suzanne.
Watch me and give me some tips.
Every day, a new journey begins.
Now when you order any pot from our exclusive Wolfgang Puck Bistro set, you'll get a full belly. Absolutely free. The Wolfgang Puck Bistro Collection, only on Home Shopping Network. Now when you buy anything from our exclusive Marie Claire R2R collection, you'll get 3 jealous friends.
Ooh.
At no extra charge. The Marie Claire R2R collection, only on Home Shopping Network.
Choosing between Comcast digital cable and a satellite dish? First, see how they stack up. Comcast digital cable offers you more than 295 exciting channels. The dish only offers up to 225. Want to get your groove on? Comcast lets you choose from 45 channels of commercial-free CD quality music. The dish, not so much. And with Comcast, equipment repairs are always free and easy. With a dish, repairs are, well, anyone's guess. So choose wisely. Choose Comcast digital cable, only from Comcast.
I've always loved working on computers, and in the Army, that's what I do.
If you never thought about the U.S. Army or Army Reserve, think about this. There are 212 ways for you to become a soldier and work at a job you'll love. Call the number on the screen right now for this free video to find out which job is right for you and discover the 212 ways you can be an Army of One.
I love what I do.
As America strikes back, depend on CNN.
And welcome back. In the hot seat today, the new CEO of Argon Bright Security. The Atlanta-based company employs 40% of the airport screeners in the United States. Since September 11th, Argon Bright has been harshly criticized for lax training and numerous breaches of security. The former head of the company, Frank Argenbright, stepped down last week after a major and very public security lapse at Chicago's O'Hare Airport. There, a man carrying numerous knives and a stun gun nearly got on an airplane. At Washington's Dulles Airport, a woman cleared 3 checkpoints with the wrong boarding pass. And in Grand Rapids, a screener was arrested for allegedly having a loaded gun. And in Pennsylvania, the company is in court over possible violations of a plea agreement. New CEO David Beaton joins us now from Washington with more on how he plans to fix Argon Bright's problems. Good to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Paula. Nice to be here.
Well, I can't imagine what it must feel like to take on this job at a time when you're taking hits from all quarters, including from congressional leaders. You know that Representative DeLay said that Argon Bright showed epic incompetency. How much pressure do you feel?
Well, Paula, my 30 years of experience includes 20 years in the British Army fighting military aggression, including many years of tackling politically inspired terrorism. So I feel that I'm the right man for this job. It's a big challenge, but I'm here to put it right.
I know that you wrote a pretty detailed letter to Transportation Secretary Mineta where you laid out what some of the immediate changes were that you'd like to make. Can you quickly walk us through some of those this morning?
Yes, indeed. There's a combination of new measures. Some of them are procedural. Many of them are to do with the training and the employment of our staff. The first thing is we need good, high-quality staff. We've started to raise the wages of those staff from an average of $6 to $8 to $9 to $13. That's already begun to have an impact in terms of the quality of the staff and the retention rates, which has been a problem for this industry for many years. So first of all, improving the staff.
Before you go any further, what evidence have you seen of that immediately that's already had an impact? Are you getting better educated people coming in, or what exactly is happening?
Yes, we're attracting a higher quality of staff and we're retaining those who might otherwise have gone to higher paid jobs. And that's very important to get the continuity of the workforce, to ensure that we get the experienced staff going forward to deal with the higher levels of standards, higher security measures, which we want to see going forward from here. It's very important, in my view, that we raise the bar since the 11th of September to new levels of safety and security, very much alike the regimes we have in Europe and the Middle East, and indeed the Far East, where the security threat has always been much higher than that in the United States. And we very quickly, and my job as CEO of Argenbright is very quickly to put the accelerator down on making changes to the existing system.
At the top of this interview, we laid out what are described as some of the more alleged egregious actions on the part of Argenbright. Would you say that the main reason for those incidents was the low pay workers were receiving, or is there another reason we should be looking to?
Well, low pay doesn't help in terms of attracting good staff, but clearly before the 11th of September, the aviation industry was primarily concerned with a smooth running aviation business, and much less so in terms of high security. Everything has changed since the 11th of September. We're now moving to a high threat environment, much like experienced elsewhere in the world, and the aviation security in the United States needs to adjust to that and adjust to it quickly. And my role as CEO is to make sure that Argenbright plays its very full part in dealing with the war on terrorism.
Now that you have raised the salaries that many of your screeners will be receiving, do you have any idea of what percentage of your workers will actually stay on? Are there a certain number of employees you're simply just going to have to get rid of?
No, the salaries will clearly help retention. The historic norms are we have staff turnover perhaps of 100%. That's industry-wide. It varies from area to area. But clearly any increase in salary, any increase in hourly wage rate will have a beneficial effect, and we're beginning to see that.
And what is your strategy as you await sort of the final resolution on airport security by Congress? Do you expect that ultimately will be federalized or not?
I think there's a strong role to play for the federal authorities. We very much welcome much stronger federal oversight in setting the risk assessment, deciding what levels of security are required, laying down the parameters, ensuring that those parameters are enforced, and removing companies who are unable to deliver against them. That is very much the European and Middle East model. It's proven very effective there over the last 2 decades. Countries in Europe started with a fully nationalized force, and after 2 decades they've moved towards what has proven to be a much more effective process. That is a partnership between public sector and private sector, and I'm sure that Argenbright will play a full role in delivering against those going forward.
Mr. Beaton, you made reference to your long military experience in Britain. Is there an analogy you'd like to close with this morning as to how massive of a challenge you've got right now as you try to restructure this company?
It's a large challenge, but I've met challenges like this before. Clearly, we want to ensure that American skies are as safe as possible. My view is that the American public should have confidence that providing they remain vigilant themselves, providing they remain patient, because security measures are an interference with their expectations. But I think the American public are expecting that, and they need to get used to it clearly. My view, though, is what I tell my family: keep vigilant, remain calm, be patient. The American airways now are safer than they've ever been since the 11th of September, and it's my job to ensure that they continue to become more safe, and I'll do everything I can to ensure that occurs.
David Beaton, new CEO of Argenbright Security, thank you very much for joining us so fresh into this new job. Good luck.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
When we come back, unsung heroes of the air war. They are called maulers, but they're really tankers in the sky. We'll tell you all about them on the other side.
The joy you find in life, the way you feel inside, comes in mouthfuls and handfuls of foods that make you smile.
Believe it, lower in fat, and yeah, meatless. Food that really fits your life. That's Boca.
Boca me, bring it on. Boca me, let it go. Boca me, feed your soul. Boca me, bring it on. Boca me.
How can you provide for the future of the people who depend on you? With the power of Pacific Life. For over 130 years, Pacific Life has improved the lives of millions with investments, annuities, and insurance. Because careful planning today can help them reach their dreams tomorrow. Discover the power of Pacific Life.
If you're looking for the most dependable medium-duty truck, consider the reliable line from Mitsubishi Fuso. They can handle virtually anything your business can throw at them. On road Mitsubishi Fuso, the right truck for the job.
You're paying less at the pump, but for how long? OPEC is hitting and cutting production on Tuesday to move prices up. We'll bring you a preview of the big announcement on Lou Dobbs Money Line at 6 Eastern. You can depend on CNN tonight. He's an American icon, an unforgettable candidate for president, and the subject of a new book showcasing his heroic military career. A revealing interview with George McGovern on Newsnight with Aaron Brown. At 10 Eastern, you can depend on CNN tonight.
Fighter jets and bombers get much of the attention in the air war in Afghanistan, but there's another vitally that is important aircraft in the sky. CNN's Frank Buckley has that story from aboard the USS Roosevelt.
A strike aircraft roars off the deck of the USS Theodore Roosevelt, the TR, on its way to Afghanistan. But in the long hours ahead, these aircraft will need to pit for fuel. They will get that assist from a squadron of pilots that call themselves the Maulers. They're quick stop tankers who help others to get to their targets and return safely.
It is an aircraft that doesn't get the glory or the attention associated with some of the other aircraft involved in the bombing campaign. It is this aircraft. It is the S-3B Viking, primarily used off the TR for in-flight refueling.
We do all the tanking missions. Without us, they couldn't complete their mission.
An S-3 crew took a home video camera aboard to shoot these pictures here, lining up on the catapult for the thrill ride that takes the jet from 0 to 150 miles per hour in 2 seconds. The Maulers fly in formation near the Theodore Roosevelt to first top off attack aircraft as they head out toward their targets.
So what we're doing here is giving the strikers some fuel so they can get out to on station, and then they refuel airborne again with the heavy tankers.
Later, they'll help planes returning from missions when they are low on fuel.
We're at a designated altitude and they come up and we see them coming, we throw out our basket and they start tanking, and then they come over to the right and wait for their other buddy to finish, and then we kiss them off and they go along their way. We basically put our hand up to our helmet, put the on the windscreen, kiss them off.
The S-3 carries 16,000 pounds of fuel, merely a gas can when compared to the flying gas stations that make up the heavy tanker fleet. Those aircraft carry more than 100 tons of fuel, but the S-3s are so crucial that without them, the other aircraft of the Theodore Roosevelt do not fly.
We suck up our mission while boring sometimes. It's a very necessary thing. One of the big things that we can do is give our fighters extended range. It's not an uncommon thing where a guy comes back really low on fuel, and we'll give him the gas to get aboard.
The squadron calls itself the world-famous Maulers, a squadron tradition to take photos of their jets in front of famous landmarks. In September 1999, they took this photo, which now hangs in the squadron's ready room, the Maulers in formation in front of the World Trade Center towers.
It's a reminder to us on a daily basis of why we're here and what our purpose is, and I think it helps a little bit for everybody.
As they help others complete their raids over Afghanistan. The strike aircraft on this day all safely on deck now, the final jets to land. The Maulers. Frank Buckley, CNN, aboard the USS Theodore Roosevelt in the Arabian Sea.